guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and happy birthday, SpongeBob!
Happy birthday, SpongeBob!
In order to celebrate this momentous event of a children's cartoon going on for 20 years, I am joined, as always, by MonstersReview.
Yay.
And we are here with the guy we call in every time we talk about SpongeBob, Chuggaaconroy.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, we are going to be talking about Truth or Square, which I am the only one on this panel who had seen it before this.
It explains so much about you.
So this podcast is the reason why both Chugga and Monsters had to watch Truth or Square. I shouldn't say that. Maybe they love it. I don't know. But we'll be comparing that to SpongeBob's Birthday Blowout, which also featured a lot of live-action stuff. Also featured a lot of celebrity cameos.
Yep.
Also was TV movie length, although not quite as long as Truth or Square.
Because nothing is.
Nope. Okay, but first we've got some stuff that we watched this week. I actually have stuff to talk about this week, which is good in that. We've got a lot of positive news, and then also we're gonna break our light ban on Disney live action remakes to just talk a little bit about Lion King's release, because I think that's worthy of discussion.
Yeah.
To just gloat, basically. No. And yeah. So no question this week. Chugga, how you doing today?
Pretty good. A little sleepier than I thought I'd be at 1 in the afternoon, but I guess such is life when you play lots of video games.
You're doing Chrono Trigger now, right?
Yes.
Cool.
I was like, I thought you had like a follow-up question or something, so I wasn't going to.
I was trying to like segue it into like, yeah, on my channel I'm doing. Not that I need to advertise for you, but I was just doing a light plug. Okay, cool.
No, making a Chrono Trigger series right now, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, because you move through series very fast, so I gotta like time capsule it. Like when you're doing this is before Chugga decided to finally do Battle for Bikini Bottom.
It's like pre-movie and post-movie SpongeBob, pre-Bikini Bottom Chugga, post-Bikini Bottom Chugga.
Right. Well, we gotta document which Let's Play were you making while watching Truth or Square, and note if there's any changes to your commentary.
If there's any changes to my soul.
If Chugga suddenly gets really sad after episode like 30 of Chrono Trigger, you know why.
I think we're actually on episode 30 right now, exactly. So.
I know. Okay. How are you, Monsters?
I'm doing good. Just, dusting off the DVD shelf. Nothing too regular is going on. But watching these two specials made me realize that I'm like the Pakshi equivalent of Camp Lazlo. I'm like the metaphoric president of the Camp Lazlo fan club, if that does exist.
Does your bedroom have like Camp Lazlo sheets?
Well, my bedroom is fully furnished as a jelly cabin. I have the totem pole and everything.
Interesting. Okay.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I just got done recording Secret Project with a good friend of the show, Shadow Streak. So, and I'm having a pretty good week. I went to New York City, visited the Nintendo store. Didn't buy anything, unfortunately. Everything expensive.
Yeah.
But the temptation was there, and it's honestly, it's just a cool place to check out to see all the crazy merchandise they have. They had a huge Mimikyu for $45.
Is that a new Pokemon?
Monsters.
Ouch.
I mean, I guess.
Only objectively the best new Pokemon.
No, I agree. I talked about Mimikyu when I talked about the Pokemon anime too. He's one of my favorite parts of the Sun and Moon anime.
Yeah, just in battle as a character in the anime, Pokedex entry and lore, design. Yes, everything about it is objectively great. Even
names. I would be curious to show people that are like staunchly Gen 1ers or like just hate the new stuff this Pokemon and see what they thought about it, because I think Mimikyu's pretty hard to dislike.
Oh yeah. It's such a sympathetic idea for a character too, just like how it wants to be loved.
But anyway, yeah, no, I've been having a good week. Played a lot of Pokemon Go too, in a very Pokemon mood. Yeah, so we have, it's not a correction, but I guess an explanation for last week.
Yeah.
You may have noticed that last week was the first time the recast was ever under an hour. Like 57 minutes, I think it clocked
58,
in at.
yeah.
58. I mean, we probably should have fudged it and just made it now. but yeah, no, it was really short. Essentially what had happened was there wasn't any news last week, so we opted to talk about something else as a topic, and I won't say what it is in case people are like, man, I really wanted to see that. But honestly, we tried something else, and it just really didn't work. I was listening back to it, and it just didn't work in an audio medium. Like, I feel like you kind of needed the visual, and
right.
We were also... we made it kind of apparent. We were also kind of sleepy last week.
Oh,
I feel bad about that. I tried not to be. And like I said last week, it's not like we recorded at like 6 a.m. It was like, what, 11?
It was 10 a.m.
in the morning. It was 10 a.m. But yeah, no, we were just a little off. And so I wanted to make sure the cast had just the best parts of it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather put out a 58, 57 minute podcast that, you know, it's under time that is still entertaining to listen to. Yeah, no, that totally. Is good and entertaining. Then stretch it for like another 40 minutes just because we need to reach some arbitrary time or whatever. So, you know, and plus, I mean, come on, have we not had enough like 2.5 hour podcasts? like,
yeah,
please.
We've had a lot of long podcasts recently.
Please understand. So yeah, that was basically the correction for last week.
Yeah, like, a video is only as good as it is concise. I always get people that are like, why do you cut stuff out? And I'm like, because it's not good stuff.
Oh, but Chugga, I want to see you grinding in Pokemon for like 6 hours.
Sure, I'll show you every day that I fought in big stadium and small court so that we could, you know, be close to learning new moves in videos so I have things to talk about.
Any other corrections, Monsters?
Not that I saw.
All right. Well, we can move into the What We Watched segment. Monsters, what do you have to enlighten us with this week?
Nothing too special, to be honest.
Camp Laszlo.
Unfortunately not. That would be a nice talking point, because it's always great to talk about Camp Laszlo and all of its glory, isn't it?
I'm kind of surprised that you weren't like, well, because I had to watch a SpongeBob TV movie, I watched the Camp Laszlo TV movie.
I do have that. I do have Where's Laszlo?
Goodbye, Laszlo. Oh, Where's Laszlo?
Yeah, that's also an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I've seen Hoodwinked 3 times in the past week.
Oh, goodness.
Because I'm working on a video about it, and I have a lot to say about it. So I've just been rewatching it. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, which is relatively short compared to other movies. So, you know, it's pretty easy, but I've just been passively rewatching it for the past week or so. Just digging up things to write about and trying to figure out how to structure the video.
Have you learned a lot?
About what? The movie?
About life.
About yourself.
About the friends you made along the way. No, I don't know. Have you made any? Do you feel like you made some really good observations or like?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's. I don't know. I guess...
No one wants to take my bait today for hyping up videos. Everyone else is like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So that's going on, and then other than that, Disney XD uploaded the full episode of Dude, We're Getting the Band Back Together from Phineas and Ferb onto their YouTube channel. So I rewatched that, and that episode still holds up, and it's great. I love everything about it.
With Ain't Got Rhythm?
With Love Handle, yeah, the band. Yeah. So there's Ain't Got Rhythm, Fabulous. I don't remember the song they do first with the lead singer, but my favorite song in the episode is the last one. I know that Ain't Got Rhythm is a cult classic, but You Snuck Your Way Right Into My Heart, that's the last song. That's the one that I like the most. But yeah, it's a really cool episode. This is really where Phineas and Ferb started to embrace their musical side. And yeah, it's got all sorts of cool stuff. Doof's plot is pretty funny. Got Vanessa in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's very random that they just dropped that on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
6 years after the show ended.
I think it had ads on it too. So they're making that
as
bank.
well.
Yeah, maybe they're getting hype up for the new movie.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know how I remember this. I only saw Hoodwinked once. I didn't think it was that bad, but the thing that I remember most about it was that the marketing campaign, when it was coming out, they were calling it the surprise comedy of the year, and in its year, it released in January.
Yeah.
Which I thought was just so... I'm like, well, that's easy. You don't have any competition. You came out on the 10th day of the year.
Well, the crazy thing is, the movie was made with, like, a bare-bones team for $8 million, which, when you look at animation, like, Shrek was made with, I think, $60 million. So it's it's pretty much like a tenth of what most movies that are animated, or at least CG at the time, were made for.
Even Shrek 1 was considered pretty low budget for animation standards at the time. So
yeah.
I'm kind of surprised Hoodwink came out in theaters, to be honest with you. It seems like a direct-to-DVD
Well, it
fodder.
was distributed by the company of He Who Shall Not Be Named. Whatever, I guess I will name him. It was the Weinstein Company. They basically, they found out about the movie through Robert Rodriguez, and they were like, yeah, we want to compete with Disney and have a animated film under our belt. So then they brought it out to theaters, and it actually did pretty well. For it being made for $8 million, I think it grossed over $100 million at the box office.
Holy cow.
And
yeah,
plus it was actually... well in DVD sales, too.
Yeah, it was actually really successful.
And then they made a sequel that's not good.
As you do.
Chugga, have you seen anything interesting this week?
Okay, so I've been kind of curious about Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends again, so I went back and I rewatched House of Blues, the TV movie that was the series opener, and it was better than I remembered it being, which is, like, I've heard that Blue's ego and stuff like that ruins a lot of the show when you're older, and the show is not as good as you remember it being from a lot of people, but the first episode was still pretty great. He wasn't bad in it. He was a good character, and I find it so weird that he's the same guy.
Yeah, Blue's basically entirely different in the pilot. He even sounds a little different.
Yeah, a lot of the voices were still kind of finding their footing, because even Mac is higher pitched than he ends up being.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it was really good. I thought it was sweet. It had a lot of funny moments. I thought it introduced the characters well. Watching that, honestly, made me wish that more shows had hour-long premieres, because it had plenty of time to set everything up.
Yeah, we talk sometimes about, like, pilots and how I keep saying that Futurama has, like, the best pilot, and basically it's one of those few rare shows where, like, the pilot is one of the best episodes, I think. I don't... There probably was a shorter pilot, like an actual pilot for Foster's, but in terms of, like, first episodes, even though there are things that weren't as developed, yeah, House of Blues, I think, might be one of the best episodes or TV movies or what have you of Foster's.
It's so good at world building, because even just as a first episode, it immediately is like, well, can't, like, an awful kid just, like, imagine a bomb and suddenly there's something horrible in the world, Like, they answer, like, all those questions that you would immediately have with, if imaginary friends are real, well, what about this? And I don't know. I thought it was a good story. I thought it was definitely worth rewatching. That was the main thing that I watched this week. I kind of been doing a lot of things and haven't had a lot of time to just sit down and watch stuff, but that was the big one.
Nice. So I also watched a little bit of Foster's. At your recommendation, Chugga, I watched Camp Keep a Good Mac Down.
That is my favorite episode.
It's a really good episode. Essentially, it's Madam Foster, Mr. Harriman, Wilt, Coco, Eduardo, Mac, and Blue go camping in the, quote, wilderness. And basically just all these shenanigans go wrong. Blue eats all the food, Wilt gets stuck in quicksand, and it's funny because he's like, don't worry about it, I'll be fine for like another day. And
he goes, don't worry about helping me, it'll be a while before I...
Yeah, yep. Coco gets like dragged away by a giant fish, and there's bees, and they accidentally trap Eduardo, and there's like talk of this monster that eats little kids, and there's like a lot going on in the episode.
Blue's fishing is really funny.
And even though Blue is like, is there an episode of the show that Blue doesn't like screw something up? I don't know that the answer. My answer to that is there an episode where he doesn't appear?
If I rewatch the show all the way through, I'm definitely going to pay attention to that. Being like, is there an episode where Blue is not awful? But in Can't Keep a Good Back Down, his awfulness is actually funny because like. It works for the
It's not the whole plot. Like,
no.
The whole plot, there's other bad things that happen, not just because of Blue, for one. And he gets punished pretty hard at several places.
Watching Eduardo just beat the crap out of him, just punching him in the face to get the bees off of him was so satisfying. And then his, thanks, Ed.
And oh man, like, because the whole time, Blue keeps eating, like, all this food, and Mac and the others are hungry. And, like, there's a point at which they have to cross a river, and Blue's like, oh, I can't, I just ate. And Mac's like, when did you eat? And he's like, oh, I found a camper who offered me a tuna fish sandwich back. And like, they don't show it, we don't see it, but he's just like, oh yeah, I ate a sandwich. And then he's like, oh, I thought you didn't like that kind of sandwich. And Max says something, and then Blue's like, oh, you don't like this kind of sandwich too, right? And he eats another sandwich right in front of him, like in a split second, and it's good. It's good humor, and it's a good showcase of all the cast. It has Mr. Harriman going like feral at one point, Matt Foster communing with nature, if that's what you want to call it, and then of course there's a good punchline at the end, which I won't give away.
Yeah, the ending was great. I like the scene where they realize they were missing almost all their supplies when they first get to the campsite, and Coco's just like, I don't take requests, when Harriman looks at her to solve it.
I did watch some other episodes. Nothing really stood out to me other than Blue was really annoying. Oh, I watched. That's right, BlueTube, because Monsters was talking about it. I think last week. Blue throws himself a in memoriam party because the day was ruined, and he opts. Basically, in that episode, he says that he is never going to have fun ever again, and just like mopes through half of it. So that's not great. But the rest of it is essentially just like a big tribute to like early YouTube videos of people doing like fails, and people doing like, there's the parody of the LMFAO treadmill music video, and I think that was LMFAO.
No? Okay, Go.
Oh, sorry.
When did the show end?
When did it end? 2009.
Yeah.
Oh, that's later than I thought, actually. I didn't realize it had that many seasons.
Yeah,
and
they had a big marathon to close it off.
Was the last season.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, wow,
Season
that's
6.
I was thinking it ended around like 2006 or 2007, and I'm like, wow, that's a fast turnaround for having a YouTube tribute episode.
Yeah. Also the BlueTube has the video they uploaded in Worldwide Wabbit from the first season on it, and they mentioned that it's got like 12 million views. And one thing that's like nice about BlueTube too is that when they upload these videos, like they get like 2,000 views, like a number that's like impressive, but it's not some unrealistic stupid number like they hit 86 billion views in 12 minutes.
I love watching episodes about people making videos on the internet and seeing what Hollywood thinks I do.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, Foster's, I've really come to just decide to only watch select episodes. I was marathoning the show at one point a few months ago, but like, I can't do it. There's just some episodes, like, oh my god, I tried to watch the first episode with Goo, and essentially the whole episode is she doesn't stop talking, she doesn't stop imagining friends, and she's banned from the house, but Mac doesn't know this when he like invites her in, and Mr. Harriman and Frankie basically punish Mac for like inviting her in, even though they keep calling her his girlfriend. She's not that. He doesn't want her around, and essentially she keeps coming and coming, and she keeps talking and being annoying. And as soon as Mac finally puts his foot down, like, he's been trying to tell her politely to go home.
Like, after as far as he knows, he's lost his best friend because of her.
Right. He's not allowed to come to Foster's anymore at a certain point because of it. And like, when he finally puts his foot down, of course, she gave him a gift that's like this heartfelt gift, and it guilt trips him. It's so forced. It's such a stupid story, and ugh. I'm sorry. Like, I like Goo as a character. I watched... was it Make Believe It or Not, I think, which is the one where she dreams up basically a bunch of imaginary friends based on their pretend session, and they have to pretend to be the characters they were to get them out because Mac and Blue are kidnapped. That's a good one. Goo's initial episode is not good, and a lot of Foster's unfortunately runs on not just Blue, but other characters like Bendy or Barry being just really kind of obnoxious, to be honest.
I get it that there has to be like a source of conflict or else it's not interesting, though, but it's just the fact that I think it's because it treats characters like Blue, or in that case, Goo, like they are in the right, like they're somebody we need to be rooting for, like, you know, they are a good person that our main character needs around. Mm-hmm. And they do so much more harm than good.
Yeah. Not to mention there's other episodes like Cheese a Go-Go, where it's just an entire episode of Cheese going, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. That's the whole episode. That's it. I don't know.
What is it with the word go and being bad in the show?
I don't know. But, you know, Foster's, it does so many things so well, and then there's just other elements that just make it kind of hard to sit through. And Foster's is a 22-minute comedy cartoon, which is, like, super rare. Aside from, like, you know, there's the adult animated sitcoms that are 22 minutes. there's action shows that were 22 minutes at one point. And that's about it. I really can't think of another show like Foster's that operates exclusively on 22-minute episodes.
My Little Pony is very similar in how it's structured.
Oh, that's true. And that's also Lauren Faust.
Yes, yeah.
Huh. I didn't think about that. But yeah, no, I mean, that length allows them to do a lot with the story, but it also means if they have Blue being super obnoxious, it's 22 minutes of it.
I think it kind of like makes the episode a lot more hit or miss, just because if they break it with something, then it's long.
Yeah, basically.
I also have to like point out that like I think I didn't say this about House of Blues though, but if there was one thing I thought was kind of messed up about it, it's the fact that Duchess attempts to murder 2 children in this thing, and yet she's still allowed to live under the same roof as one of the people she attempted to murder, and in later episodes they're just like, oh, that's just Duchess.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a weird ending. Like, that was the only thing I didn't like about House of Blues. I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
Duchess as a character is also weird because from the pilot, from the first episode, you get the impression that she's going to be more important than she is.
No, she's not.
Yeah, no, she's got Duchess of Wales. That's her episode, and then like she appears in the photo episode, but just in a very minor role. She's not really a major antagonist, like, ever again. I don't think. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to make blatant statements, but yeah,
she didn't even appear in the last episode. I'm pretty sure her last appearance was it was either in the Blue Super Dude episode or the Jackie Cones in the library one.
Yeah, just not a major character, even though it looks like she would be.
Yep. Okay, so I watched that. I also watched a little bit of Gumball. I've been kind of slowly working on the series. The thing is that because I've never seen Gumball. Some episodes, and Gumball is really good, so I can't watch it in the background while I'm doing something else. That's how I watch a lot of stuff, like Foster's or The Office, that I was just watching, because I've already seen it, so I already know, what's going to happen, so I basically use it as kind of background fodder while I'm playing Mario Maker or whatever.
You mean background Foster?
Yeah, but with Gumball, I kind of have to devote my full attention to it, which is not a bad thing at all. I just don't watch it in huge marathon chunks like I would other things where I play games. But no, Gumball is a really good show. I've been watching some season 4 episodes, and I love the humor. I love the visual style. Like, it's I don't know. It's a seriously funny show, and I don't find that many shows really funny anymore, to be honest.
It's got to take some serious talent to do mixed media as well as they do it, just between the camera work, lighting, everything. Like, it looks natural. It doesn't look jarring at all. The aesthetics of the show are so good.
Yeah. This is a weird reference, but there was this show called Sit Down, Shut Up on Fox a while ago, and they did the same. Well, they did live action background still photos, but all they did was just here's one shot of a hallway, and then that's just the background. Someone just took a picture. With Gumball, I don't really know how they do it. They must take hundreds of reference photos, and some things are built in CG. But one of the episodes I watched, Gumball, Darwin, and their robot friend fell out of an airplane, and with a bunch of other stuff floating around them. So there's the animation of them. There's also the ground, the realistic ground that's getting increasingly closer, and then there's just all these other objects that I guess they rendered in CG that are just kind of floating around them. And this is just a small part of one episode. They really, really go all out. And yeah, no, Gumball, I very highly recommend it.
Good on you for not putting it on as background noise and paying attention to all the details, because that really makes the show.
Oh, of course. And something else that I watched half of, but I wanted to mention it because I know you've seen it, Chugga. Pokemon I Choose You.
Oh.
I didn't finish
it. I mentioned that movie to you the other day, and I didn't know you'd watched it.
I listened to you. I treat your recommendations pretty highly.
Well, I don't know if I outright recommended it, but okay. I brought it up to you in the context of, I wonder if the scene of the thing with Pikachu is as hated in Japanese, because in Japanese it would be the same voice actor, and I haven't heard if that scene is as notorious in Japan as it is over here.
Mm-hmm. I haven't gotten to that actual scene. I've seen it before, but essentially I watched up until right after Ash has his fantasy sequence where there's no Pokemon, which is I did not think I'd be seeing that in a Pokemon movie.
That scene was just excuse me, when I was watching it for the first time.
I love and we might do a recast episode on Pokemon I Choose You. I don't know. We might. But I love what they did with Ash in the beginning about, like, yeah, here's kind of what his adventure would be like if things were a little less comedic, things were a little more grounded, I guess, and if, like, Ash was traveling on his own, if there were Pokemon from other regions present from the beginning, aside from Ho-Oh, like, it kind of takes that approach of, like, everything we know now about Pokemon, let's try to apply that to the beginning of Ash's journey, and then it uses that as a springboard to kind of go off, like, one of Ash's main goals, instead of fighting gyms, it's that he wants to, like, he saw Ho-Oh, and he got a cool rainbow wing from it, like, he wants to find Ho-Oh again, and the beasts and all that, and I think that's a really cool place to take Ash's origin for, like, an alternate take. I was not bothered at all by, like, Misty or Brock not being there. I found it to be like, why not? Why not make it different? Like, if you're gonna retell the story, retell it in, like, a completely different way, and that's what they do.
At the same time that this movie came out, the Sun and Moon episodes with them in it were airing, so it's not like they were forgotten about. They got to be in the canon version from the beginning, and then they got to be in it again while this was going on.
Right, and at first I was like, oh, it's a little weird that they skip right to Erica, but considering the focus isn't on fighting gyms, like, that's fine. Like, for some reason, a lot of Pokemon media, like, Pokemon Origins did this, Pokemon, whatever those shorts that they did a while back.
Generations,
yeah. And the anime does it too sometimes. Well, not even the anime, but, like, the movies do it, where there's just this huge montage that just kind of skips through, like, a lot of the adventure, and I understand why they do it, because they're trying to condense the story of, like a 16-hour game down into an hour and a half. But, sometimes it's just kind of like you get lost in the montage, and I just kind of want to see a little more of the day-to-day life. But after they get past the montage, and once Ash settles in with his new friends, and they kind of decide where the story's going, it definitely slows down, and it definitely gets a little more coherent, I guess.
I hear you. I'm kind of glad that the movies have been going away from giving us Pokemon trainer stories where somebody gets their starter Pokemon and then goes from town to town and gets gym badges and then competes at the league. Like, the movies have been kind of going away from that lately, where it's not really so much about a Pokemon trainer story. We've had, like, more experimental things like Detective Pikachu, or the more recent movies not really going in that direction, where we have just kind of one story that isn't really connected to anything. They used to try to work the stories of the movies into the anime itself, like with Mewtwo and all that. You don't really see stuff like that anymore either.
No. So, that's what we watched this week. On to the news. Monsters, I haven't heard from you in a while. Why don't you tell us about the first news? Talk about the first piece of news that you want to talk about on this list.
Okay. Well, we finally got some news on the Warner Media streaming service that's been hyped up and anticipated for the past few months. Turns out, I was speculating on, like, whether or not HBO is going to be looped into it or not, because Warner also owns HBO, which is, like, has very much been, like, its own thing for a long time. But it turns out it's, this thing is going to be a part of HBO, because they're calling it HBO Max. And they uploaded a sizzle reel. It's going to have all sorts of stuff. They say 10,000 hours of content from HBO itself, so I'm assuming things like Game of Thrones and whatever else they do. Warner Bros. Itself, New Line, DC, CNN, TNT, TBS, True TV, the CW, Turner Classic Movies, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Crunchyroll, Rooster Teeth, Looney Tunes, Boomerang. So there's going to be a lot of stuff on here, and it really looks like they're trying to build up a Titan to fight against Disney Plus.
Now, when you say sizzle reel, does this contain things from the actual service?
Yeah.
Okay. Because lately, the term sizzle reel really could mean anything.
Yeah, like I watched it, and they have, like, Friends, A Star Is Born, Game of Thrones is on here, The Sopranos.
It is interesting. The first thing they list on this is Friends. I didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's because it was, like, one of the top 5 popular Netflix shows. And once that'll be leaving, people are going to wonder where it is. And
where are my friends? Where did they go?
My friends left me and moved somewhere else.
That's how they should brand HBO Max. Your friends are here.
That's straight up the first thing that they say. Well, they say it's gonna be launching in spring of 2020, so again, not too long after Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
But the first bullet point they say is the exclusive streaming rights to at launch to all 236 episodes of Friends. They also say Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Pretty Little Liars.
I don't like the fact that they say streaming rights to all episodes, only because it makes me feel like they won't have all episodes of other things. And if you think that's a stretch, remember, the Boomerang streaming service didn't have all episodes of the shows it put on there and opted for like a weird model where they added like season by season months later, and some shows never got the full release on there.
Yeah, they announced a bunch of original programming they're doing too. Like they're doing a adaptation called Dune: The Sisterhood.
The Sisterhood of Traveling Dunes.
The girl from Big Bang Theory, Kaylee Cuoco, is doing a thriller series called The Flight Attendant. Oh, and they're doing an animated Gremlins series.
Interesting.
Yeah.
None of these new shows really do it for me.
Yeah, the exclusives aren't going to be important, I don't think.
No. Well, and the other thing is, now, Cartoon Network is under the Warner umbrella, and I believe their logo was somewhere around here, but they have not said anything. None of the stuff that they're promoting is from Cartoon Network at all. That doesn't mean that Cartoon Network's not going to be a part of it, but it raises the question.
Yeah, their logo's in the sizzle reel.
Right.
It's weird. I hope that they have a lot of stuff. With 10,000 hours of content, I don't see why they wouldn't want to put Cartoon Network's library up on there. Just throw everything you have on the table.
Well, the thing that really adds the question... Well, remember, again, this is the same parent company with Boomerang and the DC streaming service, both of which had their problems with not having enough content. But if you look at the kids tab on their website, you would think maybe Cartoon Network content, but none of it on here. Big thing is Sesame Street, which of course is a big get, but
Well, the thing is too, like, we also already have a few streaming services from these people, like the DC Universe and Boomerang, so who knows what will happen to those. Maybe this will just be kind of like a Verve thing where it's just like a bunch of content looped into one thing, but it's at a more premium price.
Yeah, but wasn't Boomerang like $12 a month anyway? Like, or I think it was like $8. Boomerang wasn't cheap.
Yeah, I don't know if they said how much this is going to be either, because HBO itself, just like if you want to buy HBO now, it's already $15 a month, and that's just core HBO. So when you have all of this content, who knows how much they'll be charging with it, especially when it's up against Disney Plus at $7 a month.
Yeah.
It seems like we're kind of in the phase where everybody's past the point of thinking, I'll just make my own Netflix of my own content and, it'll be great. And, I'll just take that away from other services and it'll be fine. And then, those aren't doing well. So now they're starting to meld together to make bigger and bigger competing services. So
right. I mean, and that's like, I know my opinion is a little different from a lot of other people's about these streaming services, but it would be really great if we had like 4 or 5 of them, but each one of them had a ton of varied content like on it. Like I would also be okay with things like the DC streaming service and Boomerang if they were like really, really cheap. Because I like paying for things, like only sections of things that I'm going to use. Like I'm paying for Netflix and there's tons of content on there I'm never interested in watching. So the specialized one makes sense, but only if it's really cheap, and they haven't been. So yeah, You're right. It does seem like those are probably going to be fold into here, if not at launch, maybe after. Maybe they want to see if they can still get some money out of people for those, and if they can't, they will just fold it in, because they might as well.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like for whatever reason you can't make a streaming service that cheap for some reason, because none of them are.
Well, Disney's going to be $7. I mean, I think that's pretty cheap.
That's actually not bad.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
And that comes with like 4K and everything too.
Right, and the thing is, I think Disney, and there was also a family option for not much more that was like give you a ton of different screens. But I think the thing is, I really hope that Disney is going to kind of stick to their guns on this, at least for a little while, because it will force Netflix and this HBO Max to like step down their price. Like, there's no way, if this comes out and is like $40 a month. Yes, sure, adults that want to watch more adult programming wouldn't care about it compared to Disney, but families and people interested in Disney content, like, there's no way they're going to pay for that and this.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering about the HBO branding, it is a little weird, but it kind of makes sense because HBO was essentially the Netflix before Netflix, in the sense that it was a service that you paid for separately. It featured content that wasn't limited by broadcast standards. You could have nudity, you could have strong language, you could do whatever you want on it. And HBO, additionally, also had a lot of very experimental, interesting things like Netflix kind of does now. So I feel like their branding is probably trying to lean on the fact that HBO for a while was like the edgy, different, a little bit pricier, premium service that Netflix is kind of known for, and that they want back in on.
I didn't really think of it like that, but it definitely is the same thing just before the internet. Personally, I don't know a lot about all the streaming services coming up, though, but like I'll probably end up getting a Disney Plus subscription, but other than my Netflix account, I don't really see myself signing up for like a million services.
That's fair. I mean, the other thing is just for stuff like the recast, having these streaming services definitely helps.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Chugga.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any of this news that interests you?
Static Cling actually coming out.
Yeah! August 9th, it's soon!
Yeah, it's like less than a month from now.
My mother loves Rocko's Modern Life. It's like her favorite show ever, and she doesn't even like animation. She's always just like, most unorthodox, I want real actors and stuff. She's usually like that, but she loves Rocko's Modern Life just to no end. And when she was visiting, I told her stories about how there's a new episode that was fully produced in January of last year, and they showed a trailer for it once, and no one knows when it's coming out, and they've never acknowledged its existence again, and I don't know when it's dropping. And she's like, do you think it'll drop when we're here? And I'm like, I don't. I really don't. And I showed her the trailer, and she thought it looked brilliant, and she just wanted to watch it right now. And I'm like, yeah, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And I just kind of had to like break it to her that nobody knows if this thing's even coming out, and that Joe Murray had even done a Q&A where he said that he's no longer in contact with any people at Nickelodeon. He's just kind of praying that with all the executive switchover that they didn't just forget the movie existed.
Yeah. Which, I mean, more insane things have happened. Like, some shows, like, I think All Grown Up or As Told by Ginger and Invader Zim had episodes that just never aired on Nickelodeon and only ended up on Nicktoons Network like 8 years after the show had ended.
Teenage Robot was like that, where it was very successful in its first few seasons, and then I guess it just declined in popularity, and the fourth season was finished like 4 years before it came out, and it only released on DVD.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah. So Nickelodeon's been known to do stuff like that, and yeah, with the old guard changing over and the new president and all these other people, I mean, I don't think they would do that, but unfortunately, if there were ever a time when something like this could slip through the cracks, it could have been now. But thankfully, no. So, August 9th, we will have Static Cling, and we will definitely be talking about it on the recast. We'll either compare it to an episode, or we'll just talk about it as a featured segment.
100%. Yeah.
There's so many things you could compare it to. Like, really, just pick an episode where Rocko gets hurt, and there you
go. Okay. So yeah, there's that, and then on the train of release date announcements is also Infinity Train.
Yeah. August 5th.
Yeah.
Monday. That's the same week.
Did you think that Infinity Train would come out before Rocko?
We've been waiting years.
There's a thought. This entire show has been like greenlit and produced in the time that Rocko was kind of sitting on the shelf. Oh goodness. Yeah, no, so it's gonna be a 5-night event, and I mean, what's there to say about Infinity Train? It's been talked about a lot on the internet, and it's a show that looks very good. It's definitely, of all these new like adventure-y lore shows that have been coming out a lot lately on Disney and Cartoon Network, Infinity Train's the one that I've been the most excited for, hands down.
I personally don't know anything about it, except it has a really appealing art style, and I saw a trailer for it like 4 years ago, and all I've heard about is people saying, I hope it's not canceled.
Yeah. Well, it was a pilot, and people weren't sure if it was going to get picked up or not.
Sounds like I knew most of what there was to know then.
Yeah. But it showed a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination. It seemed like one of the shows that might have picked up the where Adventure Time ended, like that kind of thing where here's a world where you could have an entire like planet of corgi humans and here's a world where you could have all these puzzles, and like there was references to like I think Zelda in the pilot. Like it seemed like that kind of show, and there's an episode of Adventure Time where they're on an infinite train. So, but yeah, no, it's been so long since I've seen the pilot, I don't even remember all of it. So I don't know. I just remember I'm excited. How about you, Monsters? I know you hate shows with lore.
I don't hate them.
I know you've sworn to never watch another show like this again.
I mean, I hope it's good. Personally, these types of shows, I don't dislike them, but a lot of them just aren't my cup of tea.
That's fair.
I'm personally a little bit more excited for Close Enough, which is also on the shelf somewhere waiting to be released. But yeah, I mean, I hope it's good. I do like the art style. It does look like it has a lot of promise and potential, and hopefully it fills that void that Cartoon Network kind of has right now.
Well, Cartoon Network's got a lot of new shows. Both Cartoon Network and Disney came out with just like a whole crop of new ones in this past year.
And then there's Nickelodeon.
Well, Nickelodeon's got a whole new crop of shows too, but they're All That Remake, Prank Show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader reboot.
Oh,
which text never came out.
Dude,
John Cena looks adorable on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader in the shirt that they have him wearing.
Listen, if I was back in in elementary school, if I was talking with my friends, what would I be hyped for? Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader getting a reboot, or this really cool lore heavy show where there's a talking corgi and a little robot that, or Amphibia where there's this whole world of frog people and there's mystery and what would you be more excited for? Mao Mao, where it's some sort of weird little cat action show that looks to be a little Steven Universe-y, or Celebrity Prank Show with Jace Norman. Okay. So, other news. A lot of exciting news this week. Steven Universe got a movie poster! Yay!
Steven looking more like a hunk, I guess.
Steven got neck. I love that even Cartoon Network's official posts were just dat neck dough. They were joking about it, and it's yeah, man, I think they did a really good job designing an older Steven.
Yeah, he looks good. I think it's a natural evolution. I can't believe his shirt is actually, blue now and everything.
Isn't it only a 2-year difference?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Well, no, but
I'm pretty sure they said the time skip was 2 years. Well, I don't know what that means, but
Steven has age powers. It's kind of wonky, but essentially he's kind of been the same way for a while, and it's tied to his
how he acts, his maturity.
Yes. So honestly, the time skip could be however many years they want, and they could make him look as old or as young as they want, because it was kind of tied to that, and yeah. He had a point where he kind of grew up a little bit, but then they couldn't change his model, so.
There's all this hype of, is Connie going to be older now, too? And, what's she going to look like? Is she going to be in this at all?
Well, they can only afford so many voice actors, so not everyone can be in it. Gotta make room for Chance the Rapper.
Well, on the note of things that we said got really abandoned by Nickelodeon in the past, I'm very happy to see that My Life as a Teenage Robot is coming back in some capacity.
Yeah. Could you yeah, and I can't believe that they're doing a tie-in with Dynamaxing for Pokemon.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the poster, the design for the new gem looks like a cross between Jenny and a little bit of Mickey Mouse. It's got a widow's peak and gloves.
Oh my god, the facial structure, yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. And then, of course, it's giant and looming over Steven with a pink hue.
The sky's even red and there's black clouds above. It is a Dynamax. I'm seeing, the more I look at it, the more it is XJ9 Dynamaxing, and I thought it already looked like that before you said anything.
Yeah, 5 o'clock got a call to go destroy Steven Universe
down by the mall.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be amazingly surprised if Rob Renzetti worked on this, because that dude works on everything. He worked on Gravity Falls and something
Big
else.
City Greens.
Right, something else I was watching, and just inexplicably his name popped up. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't have any strong feelings towards this design yet. I mean, I like Steven's design, but towards the new Gems design, because it really is hard to get over the fact that it looks like XJ9. Like, I mean,
good show, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're gonna look like anything, look like a good show.
That's fair. Look, I don't want it looking like a character from Problem Solvers. All right, so yeah, there's not really much new information other than the poster, and that they did mention they will be talking about it at Comic-Con, which is in only a few weeks, so we'll get more information, and it's this fall, so unless we get a Static Cling situation, it's coming.
I would say that they wouldn't treat Steven Universe like that, but the release dates say otherwise. We're probably going to get... No, they're probably going to say coming this fall, and then they'll be like, oh, we only actually meant the first 20 minutes of the movie this fall. You're going to have to wait another 6 months for the other 80 minutes, and we're going to air them in 10-minute blocks over the course of a week.
Very excited to see like what they do with him as older, and if he's going to sound different, and how he's gonna act, and yeah, Connie's gotta be in it, right? Probably. How would Stevani look? Would Stevani have a really long neck? I don't know.
What is it with you and necks, Pieguy?
These are the questions. Anyway, yabba dabba doo, Flintstones.
Badabba.
Yeah, we're getting a reboot for like the 20th time.
Yeah, they announced this. I actually made this a video back in the old Pieguy archives in like 2008. Talking about a possibility of like a Seth MacFarlane Flintstones reboot, because that was what was coming, allegedly. Yeah. That was what they talked about a few times. They made art
for it and everything.
Yeah, this wasn't like
material of it leaked recently, actually.
Really, this wasn't like the Nicktoons Avengers movie, which probably never. This is probably just a dumb rumor. Like this was gonna be something, and then they scrapped it. So I'm holding my breath until we actually see anything. To be honest with you.
It was so nuts back when they did this in the Seth MacFarlane days, though, because people were so worried about it that it was going to be like way too like adult humor and pop culture-y.
Cutaway jokes in the Flintstones.
Yeah, people were so worried about that. And then years later, when MacFarlane was quizzed about it on a talk show, he said that it ultimately didn't go anywhere because he was struggling to write the character of Fred Flintstone because he felt he was too similar to Peter Griffin.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seth MacFarlane, he's good at what he does, and then not much else. Would you say that's unfair, as someone who likes him?
Unfair? No, I think he's good at what he does.
Well, of the people that worked on Johnny Bravo, I hate Seth MacFarlane the least.
Did Van Partible do anything bad?
No. I was making a joke at something else. Van Partible's probably a fine human.
Okay.
But yeah, it says that Warner Bros. Is teaming up with Elizabeth Banks Brownstone Productions. I wonder how she got roped into this, but but yeah, it's going to be a primetime animated adult comedy series. So this will be adult, I'm assuming, and have a lot of social commentary and parallels to the modern times. And
well, I don't know how well known this is, but there was a special made on Cartoon Network in the 90s, early
on the
2000s?
Rocks.
Yes, on the Rocks. That was basically the last thing that was ever done with the Flintstones.
I hated that special.
Really? I've never seen it, but
I watched it when it premiered.
Really?
It only aired once.
It has a very different art style.
And it's also a little more adult, I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's about their struggling marriage, so probably. Do you remember anything about it, Chugga?
I remember that they would hold on jokes for such a long time, and it happened multiple times throughout the movie. I remember, like, it opened on a scene of Fred and Wilma just beating the crap out of each other.
Oh, God.
With them having trouble with their marriage. And then it ends on Betty and Barney coming over, surprising them for their anniversary with a cake. And then they both turn to each other and go, "You forgot!" And then it cuts away and the movie starts.
Huh.
Yeah, it's from 2001, and the IMDb description says, Fred and Wilma's marriage is in serious jeopardy. Barney and Wilma decide to help them out by taking... Wait, Barney and Wilma?
Barney and Wilma help out Fred and Wilma.
Okay.
Decide to help out by taking them on a vacation to Acapulco for their anniversary.
It was so weird, though, because they advertised it like it was something for kids, and it was like really obvious in the first few minutes that it wasn't, and it was just a much more cynical look at the Flintstones. And I remember watching it when it premiered and hating it.
We don't need a deconstruction of the Flintstones. We really don't. Like,
has the Flintstones had more reboots than Batman? I'm legitimately curious.
No, Flintstones hasn't actually had that many
They had the Yabba Dabba Doo Kids or whatever.
Well, they had Flintstones Kids. They had the live-action movies.
Scooby-Doo probably has the most reboots.
Yeah, probably. But, yeah, no, like, I just feel like because essentially, I mean, The Simpsons and Family Guy and all those shows are, in a way, like a deconstruction, or not a deconstruction, but like a different take, a modern take on the Flintstones, essentially. Right, obviously there's major differences, but in terms of doing a primetime family sitcom, both of those shows are it. And so I feel like doing a Flintstones show where it's like more adult, I think that would just really fall flat. I think the braver choice would be doing a Flintstones show that is kind of wholesome. Like that's the edgy thing now, right? That's the gamble. It's not edgy to be edgy.
You know, Fred Flintstone, he hangs up his job at the quarry, and he becomes like a rights activist and donates his money to charity.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They did do a Christmas TV special, I think, after the show had ended. But anyway, you know, I can't really say I'm excited for a Flintstones reboot. I mean, there's definitely worse things to reboot, but I just don't see the value, and I don't see the angle. There might be one, I'm just not seeing it.
I guess we're going on to the last topic.
All right, here we go. The King of the Lions is out. And so to put it in perspective with live-action Disney remakes, this year we had Dumbo, which no one saw.
I didn't.
No one talked about.
No.
It probably, I don't know, maybe it made its money back. Maybe it was really cheap. But Monsters, could you fact check that?
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, anyway, at least critically, like, Dumbo was a flop. And it also came out like right around Detective Pikachu too, so it's like, come on, who's gonna take their kids to Dumbo instead of that? And then we had Aladdin, which was a huge hit. Critically, it actually did pretty well with people named Kuro the artist and other people. A lot of people did really like that film, and it made bank for Disney. And then now we're to The Lion King, where, oh boy. Well, the score on Rotten Tomatoes has just gone up and down and up and down. It's been yo-yoing big time.
I remember, wasn't it like 90% a week ago, and then it went down all the way to like 40, and now it's back up to 60 again? I think that's what I've seen happen with it.
Yes, and there's a lot of reviews that are, well, essentially saying what a lot of people's fears were, that it's essentially like just shot-for-shot remake of The Lion King, but with dead-looking animals instead of really expressive animation.
With Dumbo, okay, first off, the funny thing is when you Google it, the original movie doesn't come up, it's the remake.
Of course.
It did, off of a production budget of $170 million, it made $350 million at the box office.
Excuse me?
What? Wait,
so I believe it did make money. I mean, Tim Burton directed it. It has a 46% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it seems like critics didn't like it.
I was about to say, like, before you said Tim Burton directed it, I was thinking, was it, like, really popular in Iceland or something? Or, you know, some other place? Because I didn't know anybody who saw it.
Well, maybe people were looking for a place to bring their really little kids. But the thing, like, this isn't me biased, like, saying, like, oh, Disney remakes are crap, so Dumbo didn't do well. No, like, legitimately, like, that movie did not get a lot of airtime in terms of promotions. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even like this, like Aladdin, they advertised and hyped up. Dumbo, they didn't. They just crapped that thing right out. Like,
Dumbo did apparently underperform, though. Like, it was grossly beneath their expectations.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's how. Maybe because they didn't spend much on advertising, they were able to make more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I like this review of Lion King, though, from Courtney Small from Cinema Axis. This film is filled with beautifully rendered creatures whose eyes are devoid of a soul. Minus.
Leah C uploaded a cool video to Twitter of I don't remember the theme. I think it's like the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme.
Yeah.
But it's just like a big compilation of all the really bad reviews of the new Lion King.
Is the movie actually out yet? Has it just been previewed?
No.
Yeah, it's not out. I mean, here's the thing, and I don't want to be that guy, but I do feel like a lot of these more positive reviews are very, like, nostalgia heavy. Like, it honestly, it seems like some of these people are even saying negative things about it and then still giving it like a 4 out of 5. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I mean, it happens. I've seen cases where Mario games that weren't well received, when I read the text of the reviews, it sounds like a very negative review, and then at the end, 8 out of 10. So it does happen. Like, a lot of the time when news outlets pick people to review things, they get people that are fans of this thing because they want people that are qualified to talk about it, but that does also lead bias in a different direction.
Of course.
There's people that, you know, like there's all these theories about who's a Disney shill and who isn't. And I don't think that there's anybody on Disney's payroll. I hope there isn't. But there are certainly people who leave good reviews on stuff like that because, you know, Disney has all these PR events and things like that, and they're not going to want to invite people that crap talk them the whole time to their events.
Right.
So you want to talk good about them so that you can work with them and that sort of thing.
Of course, everyone who's seen the movie now, I mean, unless they like work at a movie theater or something, they're all people that were invited by Disney to do so.
Yeah, it's like Academy Awards voting, where it's like they won't pay for you to vote for them, but they'll give you a bunch of stuff instead.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, not all so like the reviews are very mixed. But like this new Lion King is still enjoyable, especially for those who are new to the story. And its staggering visual achievements should rightly be celebrated, but for anyone who's seen and loved the original animation, it inevitably suffers by comparison. Richard Jordan, Den of Geek. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it just seems to be as predicted, I guess.
I feel kind of strongly about this topic because Lion King was one of my favorite movies growing up. It was one of two movies I watched so many times that I actually broke the VHS tape I had of it.
Get out.
Yeah, that and Toy Story were the two that I broke VHS tapes of because I watched them too many times. But the thing is that obviously we haven't seen the movie. We can't say anything about it. But I do wonder how much of it is actually that the movie is bad and how much of it is that people are just fatigued from them releasing 4 of these a year. Because I feel like the circumstances surrounding it... A lot of the time nowadays, you see the circumstances surrounding a piece of news or something coming out affects people's perception of it a lot more than the thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's very true.
It's been building up a lot, where we've had things like Will Smith as the genie blowing up and everybody making fun of that, and I remember the Beauty and the Beast movie getting some criticism, people just saying it like lacked the character of the original, and you know it looked kind of awkward at points, and you saw that floating around the internet, and now people are cherry picking scenes from this movie and saying how awkward this looks and doing side by side comparisons with the animation. And
yeah, even movies that haven't come out yet, like people are already really critical of the casting for The Little Mermaid and how the new Mulan doesn't have Mushu and it's like a more serious angle.
Well, the one thing I want to point out is that the Lion King runtime, the new one, is 1 hour and 50 minutes versus the originals, which is 1 hour and 29.
Whoa.
Now, it's possible. Now, don't forget, the credits alone on it are going to be just like a lot longer than the original Lion King's credits because of, 8 million VFX people. But that does still mean that there's got to be at least 15 to 20 minutes of new footage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or, I mean, new parts of the story.
I heard, too, that they cut a very important... They shortened a very important song.
Well, it's just the thing about The Lion King that kind of separates it from a lot of the other ones is that Lion King has put out a lot of different trailers and previews and stuff, and every single one of them are shot for shot, or basically shot for shot, from the original.
Yeah, and it's at that point people do kind of wonder what was the point of telling the story again.
Right, and I mean, it also brings up... See, I feel like The Lion King is going to be an interesting film to talk about because it brings up a lot of questions and a lot of discussion about how we discuss and review and treat things, because it's like, essentially, if it is the same exact story that everyone loved from the animated version, the old animated version, I guess, does that mean that it's a worse movie just because it did the same thing twice, or does it just not matter? Is it essentially, like I kind of talked about when this news first broke, like, is this just an alternate way to watch a beloved movie? Is it like, well, The Lion King is a great movie, people love watching it, why not give them another option? Should I see the animated Lion King for the 50th time, or should I watch a different version?
To me, it comes down to what new does this bring to the table? If this has new scenes in it that are interesting, or if it adds something of substance, then, I might watch this version from time to time, but I love the original so much as it is that I just don't know if I would pick this. Like, it might be a fine movie, It might be a good movie, but when you compare it to the original already existing, it's just it would be kind of hard to select this one if it doesn't bring anything new to the table, and I think that that's going to be what this movie lives or dies on when it does come out.
Yeah, that's my whole rhetoric. I don't want to give Disney money and pay for this movie and even give it a watch, because the more money this movie has, the more it's inclining them to say, hey, these are doing really well, let's make more.
Well, I mean, the good news on that, Monsters, is that they're cranking them out like 3 or 4 a year, so honestly, they're gonna run out in a few years. Like, it's obnoxious now, but really, though Disney has a huge catalog, they can't do some of them. They're not gonna do, like, the Three Caballeros. Like, they're not gonna do that.
Do you think we're gonna get the Emperor's New Groove turned dark and gritty?
I wish, dude. That's
they're gonna start remaking the remakes.
No, stop. Or they could sequelize all of them like they're doing with Jungle Book.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that The Lion King has from previews, and again, this could totally be different in the actual movie, but from what Disney has shown in my face, it's just the animation is worse. Like, it's technically impressive, but it's not as expressive.
They have the Hakuna Matata scene that they had on Jimmy Kimmel, and then plus, just a few days ago, the Mufasa death scene leaked, which I watched.
Wait, Mufasa dies?
Oh, crap. Spoilers!
Uh-oh! Yeah, like we didn't do a recast on The Lion King. Yeah. I'm still very curious about Can't Wait to Be King.
Yeah.
Being the most cartoony of that entire movie.
That was my immediate thought, was like with like the giraffe necks, like propping up elephants and stuff. How is that gonna look?
Yeah, are they gonna make it boring, or are they going to art shift it? Like because they kind of do a different art style when they sing this song. So, I mean, running theories are that they just cut to the animated version.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I'm sure we will talk about this a little more as it develops. I will be very curious to see, once the movie's actually out, what is fan reaction, and what are the more critics that I trust, aka more amateur YouTube critics. What do they say about it?
Everyone's been saying that Timon and Pumbaa steal the show, which isn't surprising to me, because the movie's probably very grim and a bit more serious, and obviously Timon and Pumbaa are the comedic relief, so...
Well, that just surprises me, because it looks like they can't pull off the comedic timing with the new style at all. But we haven't seen a ton of them, so maybe.
Yeah, they've definitely been really sparing. Like, all we've seen the shot of them in front of the waterfall, but have we really seen much else of them?
There was a shot of their faces, their dead faces, when they said one line. I don't know, I can't imagine this Timon singing "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Alright. And that's the news.
We had all of the hot topics this week.
Yeah, no, it was a very good week for news. So in that case, we are not going to do a question. So next week on the recast, we are going to be talking about The Amazing World of Gumball, a show that I've never actually really talked about before. We are going to be comparing the episodes The Hug and The Awkwardness, both from Season 4, both about Gumball and his very special relationship with Hot Dog Guy. All right, well, we will be right back to talk about Truth or Square. And we are back to talk about SpongeBob.
Ahoy, mateys.
Aye, sir.
We gotta talk about Truth or Square first, I guess.
Get it out of the way.
Well, now you know I really like being on this podcast if I agreed to do this, if there was any doubt in your mind.
Yes. If there was any question of how good a friend Chugga is, he's willing to watch Truth or Square for you.
I need to make that like my presidential campaign poster, like, I'll watch Truth or Square for you.
He cares because he watches Truth or Square.
Put it on the resume. Like, I was able to watch Truth or Square.
And I only cried for 20 minutes.
Okay. Truth or Square, if you don't know about it, it's SpongeBob's 10th anniversary special. Came out 10 years ago. And essentially, it's well, depending on which version you watch, it's either something like 44 minutes, 51 minutes, or 58 minutes.
Yeah, mine was 51.
Or 22, I guess. I've heard that it sometimes airs without the patchy stuff. And allegedly, it is exactly 22 minutes without the patchy stuff. So basically, there's two things going on. There's a SpongeBob episode where it is the 117th anniversary of the Krusty Krab, and SpongeBob and the gang want to celebrate, but they get stuck in the ventilation system and reminisce about random things before getting out of the ventilation system. The other thing that's happening is that Patchy the Pirate is throwing a big 10th anniversary spectacular for SpongeBob, and he's doing so by calling random celebrities and trying to get SpongeBob to appear. It's hard to summarize it because it's not a story.
The thing about the Patchy thing is that it never goes anywhere. It just sort of ends. And, like, the big resolution is that he wants SpongeBob to show up at the party, but the party that he wants SpongeBob to show up at doesn't even happen at all, much less having SpongeBob show up at it.
Yeah. So, just to make it clear, I watched the 51-minute version.
51 here.
I watched whichever one was on Amazon Prime. I think it was 51 minutes.
Yes, it is.
Doesn't, like, the 58-minute version have clips of, like, Triumph the Insult Comic Dog and, like, Patchy calling the celebrities is the scene that's much longer?
Well, yes. So, the 51-minute version is the standard version. It is the one that originally aired. It's the one that you'll find on Amazon, on iTunes, most places. And, yes, it is the standard version. The extended version, for some reason, they felt the need to... I don't know where this aired. I don't know when it aired. There is an extended version, and yes, Triumph the Comic Insult Dog, if anyone knows what that is, could someone explain it to me? It's a puppet thing that was popular somewhere, somehow, I don't know.
It's a puppet character that just, he has a cigar in his mouth in every shot, and it always falls out because it's a puppet, and he just makes fun of things, really. I remember there was a viral video of him doing the weather in Hawaii one time that was really funny. But that's the main thing I know him from.
Definitely obscure today. I would even say relatively obscure back then, but maybe not. There's that. I know there's extended scenes of Robin Williams and Patchy. Did you guys want more of Robin Williams and Patchy walking down hallways? Because there's another one. There's legitimately another hallway. There's also something about a bathroom. I did see the extended version when I reviewed it years ago. I didn't bother to watch it now. I really like... and then the other version of the episode, essentially, they split up the episode into two or something to air it. I don't know. The 51 version is the typical one. I just thought I'd get that out of the way.
My first reaction to seeing this thing was, it's 51 minutes. I said that out loud because based on other SpongeBob specials, I thought for how long these things run with commercials, it was going to be 30 to 40 minutes.
Yep.
It was so surprising to me that it was this long. I remember that I messaged you immediately and was like, did this take an hour and a half when it aired on TV? Because how else would you do 51 minutes? And then you explained to me that there's 3 different cuts.
It aired with the 22-minute Square Roots documentary about SpongeBob. So somehow they made it like fit into that time slot with that documentary that might not have been exactly 22 minutes. That's how it originally aired.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but they probably also milked the commercials as much as possible. Should we split it up and talk about the Patchy stuff separately from the SpongeBob stuff, or how do you guys want to do this?
That's how I got my notes written.
Okay, yeah, that's how I reviewed it. You still with us, Monsters?
Yeah.
Okay.
You made it sound like it killed him or something.
I know, right? Like, all right, well, let's start with SpongeBob then.
Okay.
Well, so the first thing, I guess, you talk about it as a whole, is just that, like, one of the annoying things is that whenever you're kind of getting into the story in terms of SpongeBob, then a bunch of Patchy stuff happens. So the Patchy stuff very much obscures what the SpongeBob episode is, and because if you were to watch just the SpongeBob episode, you would realize how nothing happens in this thing. Just nothing at all.
I think the biggest problem with Truth or Square for me is that it starts out deceptively good.
Yes.
Because it looks like a lot of cool stuff is going to happen, and then it doesn't. Because not to talk about Patchy though, but because it's the first thing that you see when the episode starts, the setup with him is not a bad idea. I think it's a plot that makes sense for him to do. And then the intro to the animated segment is great and a creative use of animation. A Day Like This is a pretty good song at the start. I will actually admit that while I was writing my notes for this, I listened to it on repeat in the background while writing this.
Very motivational.
Yeah, it really hypes you up for what you're about to see. It's the best directed and animated part of the episode itself, and it definitely got a smile out of me. And it's just like this big triple attack of one great thing after another at the beginning, and it fooled me into thinking maybe this isn't going to be so bad.
Yeah.
And then it just loses itself from there, and everything is a waste of time.
It just hemorrhages.
of note is that this is the first HD special of SpongeBob. This is the first HD anything aside from the SpongeBob movie. This aired in the sixth season. SpongeBob didn't go HD until season 9.
That's so bizarre that they just did this for one episode and then not again. It's like maybe this is supposed to be the switchover point, but then it just didn't happen because they had episodes. I don't know.
The other thing that was in HD was the stop motion special. That was also HD, but that was late in season 8.
Of course.
People will get on me if I didn't correct that. But the interesting thing is that actually this was in 720, not full HD. I guess it's cheaper to do it that way. I don't...
it aired in like 2009?
I mean, most people probably didn't have a full HD TV anyway, so...
I remember 720 was kind of the standard back then, so...
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, you're right. A day like this is great. The different opening credits, or the different theme song, it's interesting. It's different. It gets you hyped up for something that isn't just a regular episode or even just a regular special. And the whole SpongeBob getting ready for his day, it's very reminiscent of the SpongeBob movie, in a good way.
It feels like the first episode too, just bigger and stronger and better.
However, you missed a key thing that happens in the beginning, which is sponge fetus. I hate it.
Yeah, I was not a fan either. I thought it was creepy and just kind of weird. Mrs. SquarePants' womb being cube-shaped was kind of amusing, I guess.
Why does Nickelodeon want all of these weird, unnatural pregnancies? What is it with this network? Yeah, I mean, okay, it's all right, but then, when SpongeBob rips out his umbilical cord and sucks on it, what? What are they thinking? I
Apparently her belly button is a porthole.
I don't... I could have just lived without sponge fetus. I really could have.
You know why he ended up the way he did? Because she ate fast food while pregnant. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, doctors recommend it, though.
Really?
I did really like that part, the throwback 1960s style commercial.
Oh, we're jumping around?
Oh.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I have notes about that if you want, but...
Nah, let's just go back.
Listen, this thing is just really long, so it's just easier to kind of burn through it instead of jumping around just because it's long.
The sponge fetus thing, though, does kind of play into something that I noticed about this, and that's that they don't really set up a comedic tone at the beginning, and every joke is a fake out after that point. The sponge fetus is the only thing that's played straight, and it's not funny.
Yeah.
Everything after that is a subversive joke, or it subverts your expectations, it just goes off in another direction, or it's a fake out where it looks like there's going to be jokes and then there's not. And you can only really do that if the thing was funny to begin with, and maybe that was what they were going for, but it just... every joke leads to nothing, and it just gets annoying after a while when the jokes they started with weren't funny.
Well, here's one of the problems, is you're absolutely right. This is the Last Jedi of SpongeBob specials, in the sense that when I watched this for the first time, I didn't know that it was supposed to be a clip show, or a fake-out clip show.
Oh.
It doesn't play out like if the first clip had actually been a montage of SpongeBob clips, that would be one thing. But they don't set it up like that. Instead, all they do is have characters at random points be like, remember when this happened? And then all the cut-up, they're all bad. Maybe not literally every one of them, but most of them are obnoxious. The next one is a montage of Squidward sleeping.
I mean, amusing in concept, I guess.
Well, yeah, you laugh now, but if I were to show you a montage of just Squidward sleeping in a broom, how is that funny? Is it funny because in one he has his butt in a customer's face? That's the closest thing it comes to actually being a joke.
You could have him sleeping in weird places, or dangerous things happening to other people while he's asleep or something.
My argument has and will always be, it would have been better to actually show clips of the show when Squidward was sleeping, because then at least I'd feel nostalgic and have that positive reinforcement. Having a clip show, but without actually the nostalgia of the clips, and instead just playing other boring clips and boring ideas, is so much worse than just doing a clip show. And the clip show idea wouldn't have been bad, because the thing that people hate about clip shows is that it's usually just 2 minutes of new material and 18 minutes of clips. Well, if this was a 22-minute special and there was maybe 4 minutes total of clips, no one would have complained at that.
SpongeBob also can inherently get away with a clip show a lot more, because so much of the show to people is those funny moments that everyone knows. it is such a ubiquitous show that everyone knows the moments.
And they've never done it aside from at the very end of the Lost episode. There's not been a like rapid fire, here's a bunch of classic SpongeBob clips in an episode ever.
No.
This was their chance, and they decided for some reason, ooh, wouldn't it be funny if we subverted expectations instead of just like doing a good concept? Like,
you know, it's kind of funny because I had one other thing that I watched this week, and it really played off of having watched Truth or Square. I watched the Ed, Edd and Eddy episode, The Good Ol' Ed.
Yes!
Oh,
I was going to mention that.
That's a good parody of clip shows. That's how you subvert doing a clip show. It does it so where you learn new things about the characters in these moments that never actually happened. You do get actual callbacks.
Yep.
And the flashbacks is that one character remembers them and the other two don't, and they're like, that didn't happen. And then it ends with just Eddie going like, I hate clip shows, and just smashing everything.
I do love that in their time capsule, there is actual, like, continuity nods, even if it's not a clip show. Yeah. Community also did the idea of let's do a clip show where the clips aren't from actual episodes, except all of those things are really, really funny, and Truth or Square isn't.
No. Yeah. Ed, Edd and Eddy did a clip show parody completely different from this, and it was so much better.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good way to do this, and SpongeBob completely missed the mark on it.
I liked the sequence of SpongeBob putting up the decorations. It was cute.
I thought it was kind of unnecessary. Like, it just kind of went on for 2 minutes, and I didn't benefit anything from it. I know that they had to establish the decorations thing so that it led to what happens next, but...
It was something happening in the episode, though. It's like one of the few things that actually happens. No, I'm not joking. Nothing happens in this episode. The only things that happen are in flashbacks that didn't happen or are dumb jokes.
It's just like 2 minutes of him hanging up decorations. I'm like, why am I watching this? Why does this matter to me?
Oh, I'm so sorry for the rest of it then, Monsters.
Pieguy's clinging on to something actually... You reminded me of Mrs. Potato Head in Toy Story 3 being like, he actually held me. You're clinging on to anything you can get out of this thing.
Well, notice how I didn't say that the sequence was funny. I was just like, it's okay. Like, it's charming. It's mildly entertaining, I guess.
No, like... So many... What Monsters is saying is just, like, so many of the scenes lead up to nothing, and it matches the jokes.
So they decorate, and then they get locked in the freezer through shenanigans, which has happened before on the show, but whatever.
SpongeBob was right when he said getting locked in the freezer would ruin the anniversary.
Very true.
Probably a joke a lot of internet critics have made, but I thought it.
Well, the good joke in there is when they're like, is there any way out of here? And Patrick's like, a high school diploma. Now, that might be in poor taste. I don't really know. I don't have anything against people who work in fast food. You gotta do what you gotta do. But just in the sense of you would not have expected that kind of line out of Patrick and out of this episode, I thought that was a funny one-liner.
Patrick was actually really good in this. For all the failings that it had, he was definitely not one of them. He was actually funny a few times, and it's kind of surprising because this was around the time when Patrick was getting a reputation about him for being the worst SpongeBob character, and it really surprised me that he actually had really good lines like that.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, Patrick he speaks like 5 times in the episode. Like, if you actually notice, and again, I've watched this stupid thing too many times, Patrick doesn't say or do much. Like, kind of same thing with Squidward. I mean, for the little that actually happens, it's carried by, like, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob.
I mean, how fitting that the best character in Truth or Square does nothing.
Yes, that's about fair.
It's scary how well you know this thing, by the way, because you're pointing out little things that I didn't see, and I was, like, rewinding and watching things over and taking notes and everything, and it is scary how well you know this thing.
So Plankton's also in this episode.
I guess.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything. He doesn't!
He wants to steal the Krabby Patty formula. What?
We get a montage of Mr. Krabs launching him, but just all sports-themed jokes for some reason. Was it funny? I don't think so.
At least he had more of a role than Sandy, who was in this, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sandy gets fake out. Like, again, I don't know if this is a part of, like, the expectation subverting, but, like, at one point, they call Sandy, and you think, okay, is Sandy gonna do something and have a role? But no, Patrick immediately breaks the walkie-talkie, so she doesn't get a chance to do anything.
Yeah, she looks like she's gonna be important and then just never shows up again.
Yeah, not even at the end.
No.
Whoop, that's great.
not even in a crowd shot. There's every scene in this thing made me go, what? Is sometimes with a little bit of intrigue, wanting to know where this was going, and then it just never comes up again.
I'm sorry, Who Bob What Pants wasn't until later. No, I'm joking.
Who Bob What Pants was before this?
I was about to say it was before this.
I don't know.
But no, it was too much subverting to the point where it just got annoying.
A prime example of that is the security camera stuff. I for the life of me, I cannot understand what is the joke. I think the joke is Mr. Krabs is creepy, right? But they don't punchline it well. They're just like, what is this? And Mr. Krabs is like, I've just been keeping an eye on ye.
He says, I want to make sure you floss your teeth.
Is that and that's it. That's the joke to it. Like, they don't dwell on it's like, so the guy who cheaps out on his security system paid for these elaborate cameras. They don't tie it to the fact that he's greedy. Like, honestly, you could do something where, like, he keeps an eye on their money or something. Like, there's a punchline. But just Mr. Krabs has security cameras for no reason. That's not a good joke.
And it takes up several minutes, too.
It's like there's so much of a focus on it that you think they're going to have a good punchline or it's going to be relevant to anything in the story, but it's not.
The only thing that it does for the story at all is just that they get to see the angry mob and realize, oh crap, we have to get out of here fast. But they do that later by just having Mr. Krabs look out a hole in the wood.
You liked the old style commercial monsters?
Yeah, I thought it was funny that they said, doctor recommended, and don't just buy a single Krabby Patty, buy like an entire barrel of them.
I don't like the fact that it contradicts an earlier episode where they mentioned that was the first Krusty Krab commercial. I know that's not a huge deal, but in your big 10th anniversary celebration, I would have hoped that they wouldn't be negating their own episodes.
Right.
The 60s commercial was kind of a high point for me too, Monsters. I'll admit I chuckled a little bit when he said, "Catch yourself a case of the Krabbies."
It was okay.
It was kind of funny. Not great.
I'm just saying it was one of the better parts of the episode.
I'll agree to that. How about the time that SpongeBob and Sandy got married?
Huh? What? I can't even right now.
Did you guys fall for it? Like,
no.
No, I had it spoiled for me ahead of time that this episode was just full of things that didn't actually happen.
I don't know. Like, I guess at least that is a genuine attempt to really fool people. It's not like a halfway measure on it. Like, it's a cop out, but it's
a bad publicity stunt.
I heard that they marketed it with that scene.
Yep. Some news source got it, and they got to show that clip. I probably cut off a version of that clip, to be honest. But knowing them, they probably did ruin the joke. But it's not funny. Like, that's the thing. It's like, even if I was like, "Oh, you got me, Joe," it's like, would I laugh at that? Like, no. If you want to honor SpongeBob with a 10th anniversary special, maybe you want to have comedy that's actually fitting to the show. Like, the whole thing feels like it was written by someone that had never seen an episode of SpongeBob. Like, it really doesn't feel like SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and this won't... I've said this long before Birthday Blowout happened, so I'll get to that when I get to that. But SpongeBob should not have TV movies because the writers do not know how to make a story in SpongeBob last for longer than 22 minutes. Honestly, They have trouble making the 22-minute mark sometimes. Like, they just do not know what to do. Even both SpongeBob movies, they very much bounce around from set piece and idea because they don't know how to do a long running story. The first SpongeBob movie is basically the only the closest time they've done that.
I think that they do best with this whenever they explore outside the comfort zone and they either, make a new world within SpongeBob like in Dungeons and Dragons, or if they explore a completely new concept like the holiday specials.
Yeah. They figured out how to do that, but it's just, I don't know, for some reason, SpongeBob doesn't lend itself to longer stories, and for some reason they have trouble trying to figure that out, and yet, Nickelodeon is the one that's ordering these TV movies. I doubt that anyone from the writing staff was like, we gotta do a 44-minute, a 51-minute special.
I have the next great SpongeBob epic that needs to be told.
Yeah.
It made me think too that like they could have taken a lot more creative liberties with the flashbacks, but in the flashbacks it's still like the season 6 versions of those characters. I thought it would have been cool if in certain flashbacks they maybe reverted to like the season 1 art style, or because I mean even tonally season 6 SpongeBob is very different than what his character was like in season 1.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah,
you
no,
don't
that
really. No, I was just gonna say like SpongeBob being the straight man, and you mean kind of like the like uglier, thinner outlines that things used to have.
Yeah, and someone left a viewer comment. I'll pull it up. Blue Sector Mirage said like SpongeBob is much more nerdy and awkward, and not entirely self-confident in season 1 and through season 3, and then later on he's much more boisterous and positive and upbeat and laughing.
He's a parody of himself essentially. Yeah. That's kind of what it became. I mean, especially in episodes like Squid's Visit or whatever.
In earlier episodes, he has episodes where he's like really upbeat and like very loud and everything, but he's a character who's different depending on what the episode needs, I think.
Yes. They very much... I remember I read an interview where Hillenberg mentioned that like SpongeBob is only an idiot when he's with Patrick. That's how he explained it. That Patrick brings out that dumb side of him, but when he's not with Patrick, he's more of the everyman. Yeah, and it definitely wasn't consistently that way. But you will almost never find a portrayal in like season 6 of that nerdier, goofy SpongeBob that is lacks self-confidence. He is just kind of like everything played up to a weird degree.
Yeah, we would never get an episode like Ripped Pants at this point, and I see what you mean. I do kind of miss that actually, Monsters, and for an anniversary special, I think it'd be kind of cool to see that again.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Ultimately, what is the concept of this episode? They're in the vents, crawling around. Like, that's such a lame way to celebrate 10 years, to have the most stock plots of stock plots. I mean, this is already after we've gotten things like Club SpongeBob, Wishing You Well, other episodes where the characters are kind of trapped in one location, and it's like... Atlantis SquarePants feels like like they tried at least. This just... I know people say that Nickelodeon meddling is why we got a lot of the patchy stuff, and I believe that. I mean, I still believe that the people that made this should have put more of an effort in, but I can understand if they, like, Nickelodeon gave them a cheap budget, and then said, well, fill out the rest of this. You got to make this long, fill it out with crappy live-action footage and pointless cameos. But the animation stuff, they still wrote this. I don't find that as an excuse. Not that I'm looking to blame anyone, but just... I really feel like they just, from the get-go, the idea was just bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel ambitious. Comparing it to Atlantis SquarePants like you did, that at least has a premise that feels important.
Right. More animation shifts, too. If you like animation shifts monsters, that's the one that does it. I mean, this one does it a little bit, but...
Maybe just look up the clips of those moments, though.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not recommending the episode. And then... There's a lot of weird things, too, where, I don't know if you guys noticed, but after flashbacks, characters will be in different locations. Like when SpongeBob runs into Plankton, who also gets trapped in the vents at a point, because everyone's got to do it, he has this weird flashback with Mr. Krabs, and then he kicks Plankton out, and there's a sequence of Plankton, like, getting flown out of the building. And then Mr. Krabs is just back with them, despite the fact that they split up.
Yeah, he just shows up after the flashback.
Yeah, them splitting up had nothing to do with anything, but then they're just together again, like there was a cut scene or something. And the extended version, mind you, has no new animation. I can tell you that much. It's all patchy stuff.
Also, how is it that they fall into the attic of the Krusty Krab? Like, at the end of the episode, like, they do a lot of falling, and then they're just, like, right at the top.
The vents were underneath it in the establishing shot, too.
Well, and then of course, to just cap off as lame a plot as it is, how do they solve the situation? To just brute force their way through the vent that they could have done at any time.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's so unsatisfying.
When they can just form a battering ram in, like, less than a minute and force their way out, it begs the question, why didn't they just do that earlier? If they were in such a rush to get out, why did they spend that whole time reminiscing?
I mean, that sounds like, oh, well, that's the joke, but it's not. You're right. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
In terms of the animated stuff, a day like this, that's great. That's a high point. For me, everything else, there's little bits, like little one-liners or sequences that are okay. But, like, just a lot of this is really just who made why did they make this like this?
I find it so crazy that we have talked this long and this vehemently against the animated segment when it's not even the worst part, and we said let's start with the better stuff.
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's... Alright, we can you want to patchy it up? Let's patchy it up. So, the patchy segments. Okay, if they begin with a very bored Richard Gervais talking about how Patchy has done X, Y, and Z thing over clips from previous Patchy appearances. That the one time we get clips from previous episodes, and it's exclusively Patchy footage. They're classic Patchy moments, I guess. Like, Patchy isn't awful. He's got good moments, but, like, that's the one thing that they flash back to? Mod on. So, it's Ricky Gervais is like, well, Patchy's gotten himself into a real mess this time. I wonder what will happen here. Like, I mean, it's fitting because a lot of the Patchy stuff feels like it's like someone trying to emulate the awkward humor of The Office, doing a very poor job.
Yeah, like deadpan.
Yeah, like, isn't it funny how awkward Patchy is? You know, like you were saying, Chugga, after the Ricky Gervais thing, when Patchy goes to the studio and he runs into a security guard played by Roger Bumpus, voice of Squidward, that's cute. That's charming. That's not stuff that would be out of place in any other Patchy episode, really.
No, him ordering the shrimp cocktail was mildly amusing, I guess. And
yeah.
It felt like it fit the tone of how Patchy's supposed to be hokey and poorly produced, and it's a good setup for him to do.
Yeah. And then the Rolodex. God, the celebrity cameos in I can't.
I'm gonna stop you right there for just a moment because we're skipping over the two best celebrity cameos at the very beginning of this thing, and that's Aang and Dora. They're in an episode of SpongeBob officially. They exist
on a poster. On a poster.
I just had to bring that up because I'm just like, wow, they're actually in the background of a SpongeBob episode. They exist.
Yeah. Well, alright, before the Rolodex then, can we talk about, like, the existence of SpongeBob in Patchy's world? Like, the special really zigzags as to whether SpongeBob actually exists or not, like, in a really weird way. Like, why is he there? If he thinks that SpongeBob is real, and he's even sent him letters and stuff like that, but then, like, what does he think an animation studio is?
I thought that at the beginning of the episode, my reading was that Patchy just believes that he's real because he's Patchy and, you know, he's an idiot.
Right.
And then they treat it later like he is real because Patchy actually goes to the ocean. And I'm thinking, excuse me?
Yeah, wasn't there a celebrity that straight up was like, oh, you mean the voice of SpongeBob, Tom Kenny?
I think Tina Fey.
And he goes, who?
Yeah.
That was actually the funniest joke in the Patchy segment. I'm sorry, Robin Williams. It hurt me to see you as confused as you were in this thing.
Yeah. Okay. So the Rolodex, essentially, all it is this rapid fire. Whoever Nickelodeon could find, I guess. There's this weird. Like, so the subtext in the show, it's like Patchy. It's whoever Patchy randomly found on the Rolodex. But like, that's legitimately what felt like happened. Someone at Nickelodeon was like, what are the biggest names we can get? Tina Fey, LeBron James. Like, what do these people have to do with SpongeBob? Absolutely nothing. What do these people even have to do with kids' media? For most of them, nothing.
Rosario Dawson, yeah.
Yeah, what is Rosario Dawson in that kids would have known?
I'm 29 years old at the time of recording this, and I'd only actually, like, heard of half of these people.
I agree. I 100%. I know LeBron James is a basketball player, only because
a super big one.
Yeah, I only know of that though because he had a gum based around him.
Space Jam 2. Will Ferrell.
Okay, I guess he's in like Elf at this time, maybe.
No, that's a classic movie that people rewatch today. I could see that.
He was popular on SNL. Step Brothers, Talladega Nights.
Pink is pretty big.
Tina Fey is great, but I don't think she was really in anything like kid friendly at the time.
30 Rock, yeah, and that's not.
Maybe Mean Girls is.
Even then, that's not kids friendly. I don't think.
But she's and she's mostly a producer in that. Like I'm not dissing the celebrities they got. A lot of them are like good celebrities. James Corden, I still don't know who is he.
Wait, where was James Corden?
Wait, am I saying that right? The guy with the host of some show, some talk show.
Oh, Craig Ferguson?
Craig Ferguson. Wow, why was I saying? Anyway, I don't even know who Craig Ferguson is. I don't even know his name, apparently.
He was the guy that hosted James Corden's show before James Corden took over, so you got that right.
How did I know that, then? Okay, well, anyway, I didn't know who he was. I guess now I know who he is. I guess. But it's all these cameos, and then, like, with each one of them, it's like, what's the dumbest joke you can think of? Patchy has bad breath, and that translates over the phone. Boom, do that. Patchy and this guy making pirate sounds at each other. Boom, do that. It's like the cheapest, laziest, cringiest comedy you can come up with.
What, you went to Blackbeard Polytechnic?
What is...
I like how boring we all think this is when we're adults. I can't imagine what it would be like for a child watching this.
Yes.
Who has even less context than we do, even less attachment to these celebrities. Like, for the target audience, I could not even imagine how much more boring it would be.
Yeah, and they couldn't be bothered to get the celebrities in the studio either. That's the thing. There's not, outside of Robin Williams and Pink, all the rest of them are literally just cut to them in their office or on a phone. Either Nickelodeon sent out a crew, or even more likely, they just had, like, I don't know, the celebrity turn on their video camera or something. Like,
the video quality is inconsistent enough. I think it's the latter, because Will Ferrell's part looks like it was filmed on an iPhone.
Yeah, at a park, just randomly somewhere. Like,
yeah, LeBron's was weird too.
You know, on YouTube videos when they have other people show up, like, but they're not together because you're YouTube, so people are all over the place, and they have cameos that way. That's what this felt like, except this is television. Why? Why did they think they could get away with something so lazy? Why not? Here's a crazy idea. Why don't you actually get some of your in-house Nickelodeon celebrities to actually interact with Patchy? That would be better than pointless celebrity cameos that do nothing.
I mean, who'd they have at the time? Like, Miranda Cosgrove, Naked Brothers Band?
That's right, Jason Norman wasn't born yet.
No.
I mean, they were still in pretty good touch with, like, Kel Mitchell and Kenan Thompson at that point, right? Like, they still worked with them occasionally.
Probably.
Yeah?
Drake and Josh. There you go.
Drake and Josh is a good one, yeah.
Yeah, around that time, Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh was probably right around that time.
Yeah, late 2008 is when it premiered.
Okay, yeah, get Drake and Josh. They're recognizable.
I think it would have also made the episode feel more nostalgic when people went back to look at it instead of just, who are these people? They're people that my parents watched.
Miranda Cosgrove, iCarly. Like there are people they could get. They could get other voice actors. They could.
At the time, those were some of the biggest shows on television.
But no, clearly they wanted big celebrity names to say that they're in this episode to advertise that way, because that looks more impressive to advertisers. That's it. Like, there's no other reason why Tina Fey or Triumph the Insult Comic Dog need to be in this. I don't know. Even Pink, who's actually there, she only interacts with Patchy once, and then the rest of it is this weird cutaway music number, which the song is all right. It's not a great song, I don't think. It's not a terrible song, but it has nothing... You don't like it?
No.
Oh...
It has nothing to do with anything, though. It has nothing. It's so far removed from anything.
Two things. For one, Pink was such a mood.
Yeah, no, I related to her on a deep level.
I gave up playing Chrono Trigger to watch that episode, so I feel
sorry.
Pink greatly. And then I don't want to disagree. Okay.
You can.
I like the song. I do like the song. It's to the point where I wish that's what the Patchy stuff ended on, because then it would have felt big and special.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of sea shanties, but the repetition of the word scurvy was really irritating. And also, like, I don't know if the effects were intentionally campy or not, but that kind of bothered me.
Well, there's your answer, right? And I feel the same way. I don't know if they were intentionally bad or not. That's the only answer you need. Same thing with other stuff with the Patchy segment, like the water effects and stuff.
Oh no.
That's the thing about the TV movies with Patchy, at least Atlantis SquarePants and this one. Like, you just don't know anymore what is intentionally bad and what's just...
Well, you know from, like, the original, like, I think it was Christmas Who or whatever, like, because it's supposed to appear as, like, public access television.
Right.
So, like, it's supposed to have that, like, really amateur aesthetic, but later on, they try to make it a little bit more ambitious, but it's also mixed with that bad stuff, so you can't really tell.
Right, what is this parody? It's not parodying a local access show. At parts, it's parodying, like, a special, like a 10 Years of SpongeBob special, but only in very small parts. And I feel like a big thing that really kills these patchy segments is that they're so loosely connected, because it's like there's the introduction, and then there's all the Rolodex stuff where allegedly he's trying to get guests for his big show, but then like suddenly the show is on and the celebrities didn't show up, so they have nothing to do with anything, and then he just decides to swim to the ocean. It's like so disconnected. And again, remember, we're not watching this all at once. We're also getting this broken up by SpongeBob segments too. So it just feels so... It feels like what they would air between, like, in the commercials, not what would be considered a part of the content. And yet, for some reason, it is.
The way that they've cut this up is that it makes everything feel long, way longer than it already does, because there's nothing going on in either storyline, and Patchy cuts in constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Patchy can be a good character, but he's best in small doses, and I'd rather him show up for 5 minutes at the start, 5 minutes at the end, and then some celebrity guest sings a song after Patchy's out of the picture.
Yes.
That's how this should have been.
I have a sneaking suspicion that this came up like a nightmare in editing. I think maybe even in the animated stuff too, with how sometimes characters kind of jump around after flashbacks. I feel like some editor really tried to cut this together in a way that was more interesting, because I do feel like if it hadn't been cut up this way, it would be, maybe it wouldn't feel so long, but it would be really, it would highlight how bad a lot of the stuff is. I feel like maybe the Patchy stuff was cut up so much that to try to distract from how boring the actual SpongeBob episode was.
I'd love to see the director's cut of this episode.
Release the Hillenburg cut.
Okay, well, Robin Williams.
Oh, no.
That was the best cameo, in my opinion.
The Popeye joke was my favorite joke of the Patchy stuff, and I 100% believe that was an ad-lib by Robin Williams. Because Robin Williams was in a live-action version of Popeye. It did really poorly critically, so he's making a joke like, oh, you're not going to reference that, right?
I can't say I think Robin Williams was the best in there. I love Robin Williams, but it just hurt me, like, loving the guy so much, seeing him looking confused while he waited for anything to do.
Yes.
He just walked around, looked like he was just waiting to be given something to do, and he just looked confused a lot of the time. And I wish they got Robin Williams to voice a character on the show. He'd be such a good fit for that, and I think that would feel way more special than just seeing him paraded on camera to walk around and sit in a chair.
I'm going to be really cynical, and I'm going to say that I think they did get Robin Williams very last minute, and I think they didn't have a script.
Wow.
I know that's cynical, and that I don't have...
It's bold.
I don't have concrete proof, but if you look at the scenes where Patchy and Robin are walking down the hallways, there's a lot of, like, ums and uhs, and a lot of, like... It looks like both of them have no clue what they're supposed to be doing in this scene.
I do think he's a great improviser, though.
True, but if you give him absolutely nothing, and he's not supposed to be the focus of it is supposed to be Patchy's show, he's not going to necessarily pull out amazing material.
With lack of direction, improv can be bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the person's good at it.
Like, I kid you not, Patchy and Robin walking down those hallways, it felt like when I was a kid and I filmed, like, a fake sitcom with my friends, and we didn't write a full script. We were just like, oh yeah, just do things here. It really felt incredibly amateurish, and again, Robin Williams is hugely talented. I don't blame him in the slightest. I don't blame Tom Kenny in the slightest either. I think Tom Kenny really, really did his best here. I just feel like the direction and the editing and the just everything was not planned out. Everything I know about productions and productions I've been a part of that were planned well and that weren't planned well, this 100% looks like something that was planned either on the fly or just someone had no clue what they were doing.
It is a really cynical way of thinking about it, but I can't deny that it looks less written and less produced than the rest of the thing, because at least it seems like they had ideas for how things were going to be shot when Patchy is doing the Rolodex stuff.
Yeah. And then, of course, as if it wasn't bad and cringy enough, there's two separate things where Patchy is putting on a presentation in front of a camera where they're trying to make a joke of how awkward he is. During the actual special that he's trying to put on, Patchy is really awkward, and, like, that's supposed to be funny, I guess, but considering that's how he acts normally, and it's even worse, it doesn't work. And then later, he's doing, like, an informational thing about SpongeBob, and he's really hamming up and in 20 years ago, SpongeBob looked like this. And it's so bad. I'm so bad.
It's kind of funny, though, because we were saying that the animated thing could have been a clip show of SpongeBob moments, and it would have been better than what they did. And yet in this one, they're not... To match the fake clip show in the animated segment, they're giving us fake SpongeBob facts. When it would have been better if they actually just talked about the history of SpongeBob.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, everyone loves that Flesher-style SpongeBob I'm ready to go to work segment, and I admit, it's nice. But I feel like they could have had a chance to actually have something informative there. There's lots of interesting trivia about SpongeBob, especially because Nickelodeon is so tight-mouthed on production of the show. They could have done something there, and they just didn't.
There's a lot of interesting stuff. Like, SpongeBob started out as an educational thing. It was planned to educate kids about marine life, and it's why SpongeBob and Patrick are so stupid, because those animals don't have brains, is the idea.
Mm-hmm. He was known as SpongeBoy, but that was taken. There's a lot of stuff. With the Patchy stuff, there's a lot of really questionable things that, like, the guy on the penny, Abraham, what's the deal with that? What is it? Just they thought it would be funny to have, like, no one call him Abraham Lincoln? Like, what's the joke with ventriloquist? Like, I think that
what was the deal with the SpongeBob on his head at the end?
I don't know.
Like, what even was that? Is that Patchy meeting SpongeBob? Is, like, why does he have SpongeBob under his hat? What's even going on?
I could not tell.
I feel like the opening is a good metaphor for the episode, because, like, the opening is really trippy, and it's just like, what is happening? Like, why does this exist?
Which opening? What?
Like the original opening where they do the theme song.
Oh, that.
It's like a really shaky angle, and it's got all these weird things.
I wish we could have watched Will Ferrell's special instead that canonically exists. It sounds way cooler than what we had.
Absolutely. By the amount of passion I have talking about this now, I think you can tell how much I don't like this. Honestly, if it were anything else, after this long, I can't imagine that I would still feel this passionate and still feel like if we were talking about maybe, like, Atlantis or something, I would probably sound more, like, subdued and bored or whatever. Not bored, but just, you know, not as passionate as I am. But Truth or Square really... You take away the fact that it was supposed to be a 10th anniversary. You blame Nickelodeon for the reason it's so long, or the Patchy segments, or the budget, or whatever. But it's still, at its core, it's just fundamentally bad and wrong, and just it's like someone just didn't understand SpongeBob in any way, shape, or form, and thought it would be funnier instead to just be random and weird and subvert expectations without any actual goal behind it.
What'd you think of the very end? Like, after they get out and everyone's gone, SpongeBob sings that song, and then everybody comes back, and then that's just like...
It's so pointless.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares?
And then Krabs turns Plankton into a balloon.
I guess his design as a balloon was kind of interesting. Personally, this is all on paper. I will admit I am not a television writer or anything like that, though, so I could be totally wrong, but... The way that I thought that they were going to resolve all this, and the thing that I thought would make more sense, would be all these loose ends that don't go anywhere, especially with the Patchy stuff, end it by having the celebrities retaliate and run Patchy out of his own party, then have Pink do her song so there's something big and special at the end, and then maybe have SpongeBob actually show up at the party after Patchy's already been run out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing a framing... Well, see, the issue is they already did a party episode. Because otherwise, doing a framing job of, like, well, it's just a big party for SpongeBob and all these celebrities are there, I think that would have been a lot more natural. But here's a crazy idea. Why wasn't it just Patchy putting on a like, fake 10th anniversary special, but like The Muppet Show, a bunch of things go wrong?
That's good. And if they went with that premise, maybe Potty would have been more in this, because Potty's barely in this, and he's the best part of these segments.
Yeah, Potty is like one of the most like remembered part of the Patchy stuff, and usually gets some of the better one-liners and like jokes about how he's, Patchy cuts him down and stuff like that. But like in this, Potty he's what, like the sound engineer at one point.
Yeah, Master Control.
Yeah,
producer.
That's like about it. Like I don't remember him anywhere else.
I did also notice it was. I don't think it was as noticeable as it was in the other episode, but with Paul Tibbitt voicing Potty instead of Stephen Hillenburg, I definitely did notice a different voice.
Yes. Sorry. You know why Potty's not in this as much because it's allegedly at like Nick Studios, and by the way, that's another way to make this really cheap. By the way, just film I don't know, in some dude's office in Nick Studios. But they don't have the proper equipment to have someone like holding the puppet up. Like they don't have like the rafters or whatever. And I guess they just couldn't be bothered to get a stepladder.
Actually,
apparently, like he's in the room of the casting department, right?
I guess.
Why is there a Cintiq in the casting room?
Because oh God, are you implying that this was shot like literally where SpongeBob is written? Like,
well, no, a Cintiq is what you use to make art, and casting directors don't do that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Where they draw the storyboards.
That's probably what happened. I mean, there's what is it? A Dunces and Dragons poster in the background?
Yes.
Yeah. I hate this. Make it stop existing.
We're crafting narratives out of things we don't really have much understanding.
Well, I mean, that's more interesting than the stupid special. You know, trying to figure out what happened is much better than watching it.
I'd love to see a documentary on this thing.
Oh God, me too. It's such a shame that Square Roots is literally like the only SpongeBob documentary in existence because Nickelodeon is so tight-lipped, and unfortunately, one of the main subjects of a documentary is passed away. I don't know. Maybe Tibbitt will spill some details at some point. Maybe we can get him to crack.
He did kind of have his crack on his Twitter account a few weeks ago with Camp Coral, but
yeah, he's not owned by Nickelodeon anymore, so maybe we can get him to say some stuff. I don't know. Anyway, that's Truth or Square. Let's talk about Birthday Blowout.
Yes. It's okay. Regardless if you like or hate this thing, I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but I say yes because this thing is shorter than Truth or Square. It was the first thing I noticed and liked about it.
Yes. Okay, so the synopsis is it's SpongeBob's birthday, and Patrick has to get him out of the house so that everyone else could throw him a party. And Patrick does this by taking him on a tour, and this tour is actually a tour of the surface. And along the way, they get into various shenanigans. There's definitely a lot of neat ideas in Birthday Blowout. I just don't feel like they all come together in a meaningful way. It goes back to the same problem of why do they do these TV movies when they don't have enough material or ideas story-wise to fill it up, and instead rely on just a bunch of randomness? Like, Birthday Blowout has a lot in common with Truth or Square in the sense that it has heavy focus on live action, and it also has a focus on a lot of like really weird, random, surreal humor. I don't know. What do you guys think of this?
Monsters, how about you go first?
Yeah.
I thought it was okay.
You don't like anything good about SpongeBob.
Bold take, Monsters. Bold take.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'd say I was entertained. Like, it just kind of happened. I was like, I guess this is mildly amusing. I only saw it once. I mean, you know, there's a lot that I have to criticize about it, but, you know, I don't think it's among the better episodes. A lot of people did say that they really, really did like it, but I just thought it was decent. Like, nothing special, really, for a special.
I kind of wonder if you feel that way at it not being a super fan of SpongeBob, because I'll admit it's not one of the funnier episodes out there. There is certainly one scene that really steals the show as a laugh-out-loud hilarious 5 minutes. You know the one.
I don't. What are you talking about?
When the when the voice actors are interacting.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you were going to talk about the beans scene, and I'm like, really?
Well, I feel like that's a really cool moment for fans of the show because they're just like, oh my god, it's happening. But I don't know. I was like indifferent towards it. Like I thought it was like cool. Like I thought it was interesting, but I didn't particularly find it funny.
I feel like if you are a super fan of SpongeBob and you've seen a lot of episodes a lot of times, it's more enjoyable because for me, a lot of the entertainment value were the little details. I'll admit that it wasn't that funny an episode aside from the voice actors for me, but just all the little things that I could notice in the background, all the, characters that came back that were only featured once before, all the little deals. Heck, I even got my wish that Bubble Bass would be featured more, which I wasn't expecting that. Like, I think last time I was on the podcast, I talked about that. Or no, that was a Pickles discussion.
Right. Right. Yeah, you did get your wish.
I could rewatch this 5 times, and I'm sure I'd still be finding new stuff. I can't list I don't want to list everything I noticed though, but to give examples of what I mean is Bubble Bass's Mermaid Man themed birthday party. He has the duo on top of the cake representing Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 1. He has the Dirty Bubble from 2 off to the side. He has a Manta Ray figurine from 3. The belt is on the cake from 4, and then he has the photo of the IJLSA leader from 5.
Yes, that is very,
Speaking
very,
of which,
very good.
Do you think this episode is making a statement on what's happening with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy? Like how they close up on their figurines?
Oh, they did. They did in the show. They definitely did.
Definitely. It's they're not going to be featured anymore, at least not as speaking characters. They're going to be background roles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if they'll do anything else background with them. I feel like if they didn't bring them in for background roles in this big celebration, and unless I missed something, I don't believe they were.
No, I don't think so.
They were walking on the back of Mall Girl Pearl, but I think that's the last time they themselves were seen, and not like a
mask or something. Yeah. Comic book. Which I'm fine with. I'm honestly, even if they want to retire the non-speaking cameo, that's okay. I do kind of feel like if they're not here at the 20th anniversary thing, that is kind of it for them. Although their presence will live on. I thought Bubble Bass's cake and stuff was a good way to honor them and give them their moment without actually having them.
It was respectful, and I think that's good. I think it's a lot better than recasting or doing any of that. No offense to your podcast. It brought me so much joy as well, like little details like the fact that Mindy exists. It brought me so much joy to see characters like that again, like how they brought back celebrity guest characters in crowd shots. That's how you do that when you can't get people back, and it brought me so much joy to see that for just one episode, every episode happened.
Yeah. I don't think there could be any debate about which of these 2 TV movies, which one celebrates SpongeBob's history better. Even if you love Truth or Square, it absolutely does nothing to honor SpongeBob in any meaningful way. And even though Birthday Blowout doesn't show clips, it 100% has references, especially in the forms of characters, to so many different episodes. And even just seeing all of the cast, yes, obviously Tom Kenny is Patchy, and the voice of Patrick appeared as a caveman, and Roger Bumpus appears as a security guard. But seeing the cast as their characters is another way to kind of honor the show in a way, honor the people that make the show.
The way Mr. Krabs actually walks around with his hands on his hips like Mr. Krabs does was so funny to see in live action. All those little directing details.
I did 100% get a kick out of the live action cast. I think they showed them off for exactly the right amount of time. Because the way Nickelodeon advertised this ahead of time was how they were like, oh, they're going to be versions of their characters on land. And it made it sound like that was half the show. And that's what was making me freak out, because it's no, the more live action you put in SpongeBob, the worse the episode is. That's almost like a universal truth, or Square. But but the fact that they were in it for about 5 minutes, it's okay, good. Each character got their moment. Patrick had a line about reference to I had an accident, of all things. Don't you have anywhere else to be stupid? Not until 4. Seeing them kind of try to do some cartoony stuff in live action, I don't know, not all of it worked for me, but the charm definitely shone through, and because it was not dragged out for a whole episode, it worked.
I don't feel like anything overstayed its welcome. I think they could have very easily made a lot of these things take too long or overstay their welcome, and they ended everything in a few minutes. They ended a lot of things on high notes. The voice actors interacting, as soon as that started happening, I was like, oh my god, I hope they bring Mr. Lawrence into this. And the fact that they end on him was just the best.
Absolutely. One thing I will say, because I do have some significant criticisms, this episode is a lot less special after the second SpongeBob movie. Simply because they did the idea of bringing SpongeBob to I mean, they did it in the first movie too, but like all the gags about like SpongeBob, like them talking about humans and stuff like that, they did do it quite a bit in the second movie, and they do it differently here. I'm not saying that they're like rehashing it or that it's like awful, but I do feel like this would have been more special had that not existed, because this would have been like, oh, SpongeBob reacts to humans and all this stuff when they did it. Like,
I can see that, especially with them making references to the films in it. I didn't watch the second movie personally, but it's an angle that I didn't think of this from, though, and I can definitely see how that would kind of bring the specialness down a few notches.
Yeah, like them parking on top of the guy's belly. It's like they do a joke with a fat guy and like they're on his stomach. Like they do that, and that's one thing. Another thing, it's too random humor. There's so much reliance. Like why that bean? I'm sure. Okay, at least with the bean thing, I could see some people finding that really funny. But for me, it was just like, what is this? And then, like, the gorilla stuff, like, I thought it was going to be a reference to I Had an Accident, but then it's not. And then why is the dog suddenly anthropomorphic? Like, there's a lot of those moments that I'm just like, what is this what SpongeBob humor is? Like,
random.
I thought the dog was funny, though, but the others were not my taste.
Get it? It's a bunch of executives wearing gorilla suits dancing in a conference room.
Satire.
That's the punchline.
Biting commentary.
If I had to bring up jokes I didn't think were that funny, I noticed that this episode really likes spitting. There's a lot of licking, spitting, slobbering, regurgitation, or just soggy food in it.
Yeah, oh, God,
there was a lot of like weird body horror stuff too, like when Plankton's butt was ripped off for like a minute,
and he has
then
flesh
also,
underneath.
Yeah, like SpongeBob smiles so much that his cheeks literally explode, and you see like the skin peeling.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to say I agree that it's not a very funny episode. Even I personally, I didn't really laugh at the live action stuff as with them as much as I like smiled, as much as I was like, oh, that's like that got me, which is good. But one thing I do have to say I did find really funny, Plankton and him throwing a masochist party, like I thought that was pretty good. Like,
say it, Frank, say it.
Yup, Fred. Hey, don't you dare get his name wrong.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Is it bad that I don't like that they mentioned that on the nose? Like, I haven't seen the My Leg episode, but I don't know, like when I heard him say my leg, like I just like it so much more when it's a background thing where just like something explodes, then you just hear my leg.
But it's the 20th anniversary, and like
if there was ever a time to do it on the nose, it's now.
Yes,
I guess.
I agree. If this had just been in some random episode, I could maybe see your point, but I don't agree. Especially, I mean, it's nice to see them mixing up the joke instead of it just being something weird happens. Instead of, Plankton kind of like mentioning that like it's kind of he's obligatory, he has to do it. Like, I liked that, and I liked that. Again, I like that they use the word masochist at a kids show. That's not something expected. I like that Plankton says it, and then I really like that he pulls through on it. You think it's just gonna be a gag, like he says that and then he does some other theme, but nope. It's just here's just a torture themed party in the middle of all this other stuff. It is it is a little weird that the party stuff is kind of so separated from everything else happening. Like, I get that they've done party-themed episodes before, but it is a little weird to have all these, like, cool background cameos and stuff, and then, like, SpongeBob isn't even there. I don't know.
I'm glad that they did multiple plots, at least.
Right.
I'm very glad that it is split up if it had to be this long. I guess I see what you mean by it feeling disconnected, but I was entertained, I think, sufficiently by each of them having enough details that it didn't bother me.
That's fair. I really liked, I think his name's Rube.
Yeah, Rube.
The tour guide. Yeah.
He's from other episodes, more recent episodes, but I did see, what is it? No pictures or something? No pictures allowed? No pictures,
No
please?
Pictures, please?
Yeah, I think that's it. Which is weird because I believe it's Patrick giving him a tour in that episode. But no, I thought he had like a really charming accent, and I liked his amazing catchphrase. I don't know. I found him really charming.
Rube as a character actually brings up that this episode, I guess just tonally, it reminds me a lot of Rocko's Modern Life, where you have a character like Rube who is in charge of things, even though he's really weird. He like reads this super long set of rules that like buries the characters, and then just like the premise of a strange, weird, eccentric character giving a tour of another world where everyone gets hurt, and just how many of the gags are physical. It just,
I think you.
I was gonna say, it just feels like Rocko a lot, and there's even little things in this episode, like the anthropomorphic alarm clock at the beginning yelling at SpongeBob to wake him up.
I think you also might subconsciously be remembering the time Rocko and Filbert and Heifer took a tour of the movie studio.
Oh yeah, and like
because they did have an eccentric tour guide and a bunch of rules. What else? Bubble Bass. I mean, Bubble Bass. I wish that they would make him more like himself. Like they made him kind of like a schlubby guy at least, but they didn't make him as obnoxious as he was. I kind of liked that about him.
What a strange pick that they had him being one of the people planning the party, because him and SpongeBob have never gotten along. Like, you don't get episodes...
Yeah.
You get episodes where SpongeBob and Plankton do fun stuff together, but you don't really get that with Bubble Bass, typically.
I don't... They really want to make him a thing again.
He was like the one Season 1 character that just didn't catch on, even though he was great.
Yeah. In terms of the celebrity cameos, okay... Comparing it to Truth or Square, this was so much better because the two celebrities they had in the start of it were they had Hasselhoff, which like thank you. It's a celebrity that actually has significance to SpongeBob. Do you know how many celebrity guest voices have been on SpongeBob? Like, why couldn't Truth or Square, or even honestly this episode for that matter, have bothered to get any of those people back?
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about Hasselhoff, but I am just saying, like, it's still weird that they didn't do that. And then they also had Kel Mitchell, who doesn't really have anything to do with SpongeBob, but he's a Nickelodeon person, so okay, makes sense.
They had Jack Griffo too. He was the second person, or maybe the third person that got beans thrown at him.
Oh,
from the Thundermans.
Oh, okay. And then, I mean, obviously, guys, could you believe they got the cast of SpongeBob to be in this?
Oh, what?
I know, right?
All together again at last?
Yeah, big
even
reunion.
Mr. Lawrence?
The celebrity cameos are also handled a lot better because they're not in your face that, hey, look, celebrities, and it doesn't hinge on you knowing who they are like the other one does. This one, you can not know who they are, and it's still entertaining.
It's not it's like a humble brag that Nickelodeon has contact with these people. Like, ugh. And then for some reason at the end they'd have a big montage of people saying happy birthday to SpongeBob, which I didn't like because it felt really random and the footage was all over the place and it just seemed like they crammed in a bunch of random people without any particular reason.
Yeah, they got JoJo Siwa, RuPaul, Gilbert Gottfried, Tiffany Haddish, who else?
People from Double Dare.
Oh, Sigourney Weaver was on there, really? Jason Sudeikis, yeah.
Well, see, I couldn't even recognize half these people because the footage goes... I'm happy that it goes by fast because I didn't like it. I felt like it was dumb, but because it goes by so fast, I also couldn't even... I'm like, who are these people? Like, and I know these people.
You didn't watch the live broadcast, right?
No.
During the live broadcast, they had little bumps during the commercial breaks that just had other celebrities wishing SpongeBob a happy birthday, like some of the other cast members of Henry Danger and...
including...
the girl, I don't remember her name.
But did they have Jace Norman?
Yeah, they did have Jason
Yes!
Norman. And then the Jonas Brothers were there, also like Laura Condor and some other people.
Man, Nickelodeon really just loves to hype this crap up, like to no end.
This was a super marketed special. Like Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbakke, or however you say his name, like so many of them have been doing press for this, and I've gotten so many YouTube videos of my recommended with Tom Kenny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They've been doing a bunch of stuff. They did other stuff when the actors were dressed up like their characters, like for bonus materials.
Yeah.
That didn't make it in the show. Which again, I'm glad it was just bonus materials because it didn't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, do we know how it did ratings wise? Let me check the Wikipedia page. Keep talking.
I was gonna say, I think on repeat viewings you could just skip the SpongeBob happy birthday stuff once you've seen it once, so I don't find it as offensive or egregious because it's right at the very end.
Well,
yeah.
I guess we'll bring this up too. While that's happening, they're absolutely flipping through the credits. Like, the credits are going unbelievably fast, and then they have a title card that's up for a couple seconds that says "Thank you, Steve."
Oh, I watched
It was different.
I watched the home media release version, so it didn't do that. That's just in the broadcast version. The "Thank you, Steven Hillenburg" hung for a few seconds on the original video file, and the credits went by at a normal speed after that.
Yeah. Huh.
The dedication at the end got me, because I really wanted to see that, like, in the show after the stuff that happened at the Super Bowl this year, and I was glad that it did.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you guys think of the CGI fish?
I mean, it looked good from, I guess, CGI standpoint. It just, I don't know, it was unsettling.
I think aside from that, the animation mixed with the live action was a lot better than I expected it to be. It would have been so easy for it to look horrible or off, but I think it proved that you can blend 2D with live action well, and there are some parts where the characters in the tank are CG, but it was used sparingly, and I can kind of excuse it.
I think they were real life.
They weren't CG, they were figurines.
Oh,
yeah.
right, because they filmed it on, they probably filmed it on location and then just, like, covered it up with the animation.
Right.
The only scenes that I didn't think looked really good were, like, David Hasselhoff in his canoe looking kind of green screened, and then there was there was that one time where they came back from a commercial and it's a side view of them driving on a tree branch and it looked really fake.
Yeah. I don't know if I honestly I have to see it again whether I could decide if the figurines is like a charming thing or if that just kind of looks bad.
I thought it was charming.
I don't know. Was it intentional? like
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they know, like, with how expensive and complex animation is, I'm sure they knew.
Right. Well, they might have just decided that it wasn't worth. They planned on it and then decided it wasn't worth. I don't know. It didn't look awful. I think it was intentional. I don't know.
Did you get those ratings?
To be determined. Unfortunately, we don't know yet. But it would be like one of the bigger events, you know, in Nickelodeon recent history. A few weeks ago, Nick and Moore posted a thing about like the top most viewed things in Nickelodeon ever, like the ratings. And Truth or Square is on the list at lower than Dungeons and Dragons, thankfully. Dungeons and Dragons had 8.5. Atlantis had 8.7. And Truth or Square, in terms of millions, Whatever Happened to SpongeBob got 7.6. And Truth or Square got 7.6, just under Whatever Happened, at the 13th most viewed thing in Nickelodeon history. So it would be very interesting. It will be very interesting to see how the ratings come out on this because, yeah. And also, by the way, on this list, like nothing past 2011, I think, or 2012.
Ouch.
Nickelodeon. Yeah, Nickelodeon hasn't reached anything close to 6 million views in almost a decade. Yeah, so woof. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up in terms of that. Definitely, Birthday Blowout was interesting. Definitely it held my attention like pretty well on first watch. I don't think it would do as well on second watch, but you know, it tries something a little bit different. It goes for some ideas. I don't think all of them work. I was also getting some weird like Finding Dory flashbacks when SpongeBob's like liberating the fish. But yeah, no, like overall I do need to see it again to kind of come up with like a real rating, but I know enough that I'm kind of mixed on it, I guess is how I'd put it. I could be tipped in any direction.
Well, all the more hype for when your season 12 review comes out, right?
Stop it. Will you stop that?
The last thing I need to do is stir up the comments in every video. When season 11 coming out?
But I can 100% tell you with perfect certainty that this was so much better than Truth or Square.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Monsters? You're pretty lukewarm on this.
All right. Yeah, I got some final thoughts here. So I will say that Big Birthday Blowout is miles ahead of Truth or Square. But I still thought that the 20th anniversary special was like okay. The Paxi segments didn't bother me as much as they did in Truth or Square, but I still didn't really get a kick out of them here.
We didn't even mention Patchy, by the way, in Birthday Blowout.
Should we elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's there. Well, he meets SpongeBob at the end in a really kind of dumb sequence.
Yeah, he finally meets SpongeBob.
But he's
and his head gets separated from his body.
What was that?
I don't know. Those are always so weird. My favorite part of the episode was the conflict happening while they were setting up for the surprise party. I just thought the conflicting nature and kind of drawing the boundaries between like Mrs. Puff and and Mr. Krabs and all that having their own agenda for what they wanted the party to be like. I thought that was pretty entertaining. The live action parts also didn't really interest me. My least favorite part of the episode was the beans. I don't know. It felt so out of place for me. And for it being a TV special, I do agree with you, Chugga, that it had super high production value because there really is a lot going on. Yeah. However, me having a background in this sort of stuff and just nitpicking a little bit, I did notice some odd things. Oftentimes they would like speed up or slow down the shots really oddly. Like when there was the chase sequence with the dog, they slowed down the background footage, and then there'd be some times where like the real life aquarium tank was driving around and they'd speed up the footage really fast, and you could tell because like the people in the background would look really weird.
Yeah. Sometimes they did that intentionally for comedic effect, like with Jim Bob.
Yeah.
Like he's flipping patties, but yeah, other times you're right. They did it and it doesn't match exactly. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, Monsters. In one of the very first shots, Patchy's mic wire is showing.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, that's another thing. Some of the audio, like they do some of the live audio, especially in the restaurant, and it sounds really weird. It's like canned, but you can tell there's some parts where it's very noticeably ADR'd. Like, yeah. I'm pretty sure most of the things with Kel Mitchell were ADR'd, and a lot of David Hasselhoff stuff was ADR, which for those of you that don't know means that they don't take the audio from when they shot, and instead they hop into a VO booth and re-record the lines after they shot it.
It was probably windy on the beach.
Yeah, that's true, but some of it was very noticeable. Also, this is an extreme nitpick, but inside the real-life restaurant, some of the shots were overexposed.
On-location shooting is difficult.
It is. I loved all the cameos, though. The end joke was really funny with, them dodging how old SpongeBob was. Yeah, it was cool. Also, Potty's voice in here was I think Paul Tibbett does a better job of Potty than Doug Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this wasn't Tibbett. This was Doug Lawrence?
Yeah. Okay. And then with Truth or Square, definitely not a good episode. I don't think it's like a monstrosity. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. But
ooh, them's fighting words.
I think it's not good. Under your rankings, I definitely consider it a scumbob, but I don't think it's like the worst episode. And yeah, like we talked about, the whole concept is stupid. The live action segments are stupid. A lot of just the flashbacks are meaningless. All the celebrity cameos are phoned in. Yeah, it's
literally phoned in.
Yeah, literally phoned in. That song at the beginning that you guys seemed to like, that was kind of forgettable for me. Yeah, the CeeLo Green theme song was bad.
You're more critical about the parts that we liked, and you still don't think it was the... What would you consider the worst episode of SpongeBob?
Waiting? I don't know. I haven't seen Waiting. Yeah, the CeeLo Green theme song was bad. Also, I found it odd how the pineapple... I don't know if this was a joke or not, but the pineapple is automatically furnished once it lands. Did you guys notice that?
That was the one character cameo from Truth or Square. You got Bikini Bottom Realty Lady.
So,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, I kind of gave my closing thoughts, but I have to mention there is copious amounts of the word pie used in this episode. They call the Frisbee a pie, and they think that the dog is a pie dragon that eats pies, which scared me a little bit, but otherwise...
it's an indirect shout-out.
Listen, people underestimate how many times pies show up in cartoons. I used to get a lot of flack for, like, why is your name that? And it's like, dude, pies are very common in cartoons. Anyway, what's your closing thoughts, Chugga?
Okay. So, I like this episode. I will admit it's not that funny, with the exception of a few parts. But I think that this is everything Truth or Square could have been if it was well produced and if the concept was played a lot more straight. The voice actors interacting was definitely the best part. I feel like the less funny parts were excusable just because of how much creative animation we got to see and all the trouble they went to include so many references. If you wanted to parody SpongeBob for his anniversary, then, do it by parodying it by, hey, we actually have good continuity for just one episode. Mm-hmm. Details are great. I think this could go down as a great special that people go back and rewatch, like it's a SpongeBob Christmas, possibly. Might just be me thinking a little bit optimistically there, but I do think that it could be that, and I do think it's good on rewatch value just because you can pay attention to details in the background. And I feel almost like this was an apology for Truth or Square because this was This was subverting the clip show in a different way, where you did a new plot made up of favorite SpongeBob characters and moments.
That's fair.
That's another thing too. Like, even though there's no like flashback clips, when you see characters like the Strangler or the Hoopla dude or like the people from Rock Bottom, it immediately puts those thoughts in your heads, recounting what happened in those episodes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like when I see the Hoopla dude, I immediately get images in my head from Krusty Krab training video.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, okay, for one, I have to say, like, is just kind of like a random thought. I love how Plankton, Bubble Vass, and even the Tattletale Strangler were willing to help throw SpongeBob a birthday party, yet Squidward needed to be convinced.
It's also funny because if you remember, SpongeBob's birthday is what helped him survive the Tattletale Strangler.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. This is like PTSD for the Tattletale Strangler of like how he got arrested. Oh my gosh. I guess as like one last thing, I can't help but think that given the premise of this episode and how they had references to absolutely everything, that I might have gotten my wish for Robin Williams to voice a character on the show if he was still with us, and I really wish that he did that at least once, because he would have been such a good fit for it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I personally don't think that this is something amazing or crazy. Oh, we also didn't mention Frenchie, that they acknowledged that
Is he the narrator?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
from the episode Feral Friends from a few seasons back, season 10. He appears and he's friends with Sandy, and it is canonically the narrator. But not only is he in the episode, but they specifically call him Frenchie. They say that he's Sandy's friend. They acknowledge continuity, which I hear that they do a lot more.
Best continuity not of all was the time where Mr. Krabs said, "Nice try" to Plankton.
Oh my god.
I like the way Forever Brooks said it. He said the celebration is better than being stuck in the air vents. All right, we're going to do another version of guessing episodes. Well, first I'm going to have Pie go and then Chugga. I need the episode and the season for you to get the full point.
Okay.
Sound good?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Prompt number 1. Plankton tells Patrick that he's his conscious so he can convince him to steal a Krabby Patty.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one. I don't know.
Any idea, Chugga?
All I got is season 11.
Yeah, neither of us know. It must be more recent.
So, do you want me to spill the beans? No pun
Oh my
intended.
god.
Beans.
Oh my god. Yes, just say it.
All right, yeah, so it is season 11, and the episode is called Pat Nokio.
Okay.
Pat
All right. That's a good title.
At first I thought you said Pat Nokia, like the phone.
You can't
Pat
break him.
Nokia. All right, so that's prompt number 1. Let's move on to prompt number 2. Squidward quits the Krusty Krab to work for Plankton, turning the Chum Bucket into an overnight success.
Oh. That sounds familiar. I know I've seen that episode.
Oh, I know this.
Is it? Nah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Chugga, have any idea?
Season 8's all I got this time.
All right, well, yeah, it is season 8, and the episode is called Chum Fricasse. Or
Chum
Fricassee.
Fricassee. Right.
Yeah.
Right, Chum Frisch.
Right. Okay.
All right, prompt number 3. Squidward gets a boating ticket and is forced to join SpongeBob at boating school.
Oh my god, I hate you. Boating Buddies, season 6.
Voting Buddy season 6.
That is correct. All right, you both have a point. Let's move on to prompt numero 4. Plankton goes inside of SpongeBob to try and find the secret formula.
Oh, The Inside Job, season 8?
Okay, Chugga?
The Inside Job, season 9.
You are both incorrect. It's season 7.
I had a feeling you were wrong, and I had to see.
That's tough, man. Sometimes with some of the better episodes, it's like in the bad or forgettable seasons. I remember more the episode isolated from the season. I don't know.
Well, tied up at 1 point. Let's move on to the 5th and final prompt.
We suck.
Good job, Monsters. You finally created a difficult trivia.
All right. Patrick enters an eating competition to uphold Bikini Bottom's honor.
Oh, it's from season 9, and it is it's eating contest.
All right, Chugga, do you have any idea?
I almost blurted out that I thought the name was the Good Krabby name, and then I remembered, no, that's the one where Plankton slanders the good name of the Krusty Krab. But
well, I guess I'll give you a hint. I believe it's like a parody of a movie. Not the plot, the title.
I just know
nothing?
It's season 9. I'm going to be kicking
9.
myself because I've seen this one and I like it.
All right, yeah, it is season 9, and the episode title is What's Eating Patrick?
Oh, because What's Eating Patrick? Right. I don't like that title for that episode because that doesn't describe what happens, really.
No.
I mean, he eats in it, but, like...
Nobody's eating him.
No, it's like...
All right, well, 1 out of 5. You guys should be proud.
Do I get half credit for getting the season right more than he did?
I didn't say it because I didn't know. I could tell you the seasons of some of them.
You get imaginary brownie points that come directly from my heart.
Whose line
points? You're just saying you could have done it because you didn't and you... Okay, no.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chugga, for being here.
Thank you, Chugga.
Yeah. And for watching.
Thank you, Pieguy and Monsters. Thank you for having me.
As always,
anytime.
You had a lot of really good insights to bring. So, yeah. And Monsters.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, you were a monster on the trivia this time.
Ruthless.
All right. PIEGUYRULZ. Out.
Catch you guys next time.
Somehow made it.